So good afternoon and welcome to the LNER Community Stadium in York for the first game of the new season here on the Sportsman. It's the Women's Super League Group 1 and we've got an absolute cracker to start off with. York Valkyrie, last season's grand final runners-up against the St Helens side who are the Challenge Cup holders. Alongside me is Danica Prim, the former England and Leeds forward, and it's a great one to get going with this afternoon, Danica.
Oh, I'm so excited about this game, and I think this will be a real setter for St Helens to start their season, for York to test themselves and see where they were. Great win against Leeds last week, and I think arguably Leeds weren't as fantastic as they're going to be towards the end of the season. So for York, real test to see where they are. For Saints, start the season with a bang.
And it feels like this season promises so much, doesn't it? The women's game is really on the rise.
Yeah, like I said earlier, this is the first season I've missed playing, but because of where the game's going and the quality of the players, the athletes, what the clubs are doing to make sure you've got an athlete now and all the support they're getting behind the scenes is just making the game a better spectacle.
We'll look at the team news a little later, but what are you expecting from this one this afternoon?
Look, we've seen that York out in force last week. We've seen what they can do. Saints, we know defensively are very strong, so I think that's not going to change. We've already spoken about there's several World Cup players in both teams, particularly St Helens. They've had a change, they've had a bit of a mix, but I don't doubt that they'll come out all guns blazing.
We will see as it unfolds this afternoon here on the Sportsman. Let's hear from the coaches now. We'll start off with the head coach of the York Valkyrie, Lindsay Anfield. So Lindsay, game 2 for you. How good a start was it for you last week against Leeds?
Yeah, it couldn't have been any better in terms of the result at Headingley. We were really excited about that. We've been looking forward to it all pre-season, but equally we've got another tough test here again today.
So where do you want to build this afternoon?
Oh, we can build in every area, I think. We've worked really hard on ruck control in attack and defence, and I don't think we really did that, especially in the first half against Leeds. Line speed was a bit sloppy, and just, all the effort areas, the little 1%ers that we'd asked from the girls, sometimes they fell a bit short, but to be fair, they were their own worst critic. They knew exactly what they needed to do, and they came in and said we weren't brilliant today, so hopefully they've got some rights to wrong as well.
What are you expecting from St Helens? Because they've had a few changes over the close season, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, but they've still got 9 players that were in the World Cup, so nobody can sell them short, and we're certainly not complacent. To have that many internationals in one team, regardless of who else you've got around you, it's great experience for their young girls coming up, but equally they're going to be a force today, and I'm sure they're really hungry to get back into winning ways this season.
Holly Dodd this afternoon in a York shirt, but it could be one of her final ones, signed for a club in Australia.
Yeah, she has, and she's really excited to go to Canberra, and we're equally excited for her to go and to see what it brings for her. But one of the things that she said right at the beginning is, I want to play these first few games for York. I want to be a York player until I go, and she stuck to her word, and she's nervous and excited for the game today. So yes, we're really happy for her.
So Matty, first game of the season for St Helens, your first competitive game in charge. How much are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, really excited. It's been a long pre-season for the girls. We started back in December, so it's been tough, but they've got loads out of it. They've done everything that I've asked them to do, and yeah, for me personally, it's obviously exciting for me. Head coach, I had a bit of experience obviously a couple of weeks ago, but it means a lot more. Obviously, this game, and yeah, excited, looking forward to it.
You've had a few changes over the close season, so how have you adapted with those?
There's been a big turnaround in the squad. I think 7 have either retired or obviously Emmy moved on to Leeds. So, but the young girls have come in. We've brought a few back from Wigan as well. So they've gone well. And I'm happy with the team we've got. I'm happy with the team we've got out today. And there's some exciting players making their debut, and I'm looking for them to play well today and have big performances. But with the likes of Geordie and TJ and people like that, Emily in the squad, they will help them also. And we're looking for a big game.
How do you feel about having York as your opener? Because it's a tough one to start with.
It is, but some people say it's a good time to play them. First game away, it's a challenge we want. We've had, like I said, we've had a tough pre-season, and we're ready to go. And you want to play in big games, you want to play against tough teams, and York is certainly that. And I expect nothing less today.
And finally, what are your hopes for the season?
Win, and that's simple. I think you play the game to win, our coach to win, and these players are winners who I've got. So they're going to come up against some tough oppositions like York and the Leeds and teams like that. But I back my players every day of the week. I think they've been fantastic for me so far. And again, yeah, win. Win trophies, win more trophies, be more successful.
So two confident coaches ahead of today's clash between York Valkyrie and St Helens. We will see over the course of the next 80 minutes or so as to which one will be victorious in this game this afternoon here at the LNAR Community Stadium in York. Let's have a look then at how the sides line up for this afternoon's match. We'll start off with the home side, the York Valkyrie. One change to the starting lineup that beat Leeds last week. Rhiannon Marshall starts at loose forward. Holly Dodd moves into the halves. Jazz Bell drops to the bench. Moving out of the squad altogether is Cedrieri. She is injured. For St Helens this week, a few changes to the squad that we came to be very familiar with, shall we say, last year. Three debutantes in this side. Danny McGifford plays only her second ever game of rugby league. She's coming in onto the wing. Amy Taylor and Alex Bridge are both coming in from the under-19. So a younger look to this Saints side, but still plenty of experience with the likes of Emily Rudge and Jodie Cunningham in the forwards. So two sides with experience, bit of youth sprinkled amongst them as well, and we see quite a healthy crowd gathering here at the LNAR Community Stadium this afternoon for this game too. It's a standalone fixture. We got used to last year seeing double headers with the York men, the Knights, playing straight after the ladies. A rebrand over the course of the close season as well for this York club. York Valkyrie, now the name of the ladies team, and it's a healthy turnout as well, considering that the men are playing away in the Championship at Halifax a little bit later this afternoon. I think the way things started last week, Danica Prim, York against Leeds, there's been a real buzz about the start of this season.
Yeah, it's such a huge season. You know, we're kind of riding the dovetails of the World Cup, and I think if any time now, it's the time that Women's Super League is going to be bolstered and be put on a new platform. But York went out at Headingley last week, you know, went to the home of the Rhinos and put a real show of dominance there, display there. We can talk about Leeds maybe having a few changes themselves, having to regroup and rebrand, particularly in the halves. They've really lost that spine in the halves, but York put on a performance, and I think today they're going to come out and, yeah, another test for them, and a bigger test in the sense that Saints are known for their defence and known how hard they come out. So it's going to be a great game, that's for sure. Yeah,
it was a low-scoring affair when these two met here in this corresponding fixture last year. In fact, both times they met last year, it was very tight. York winning the first one 13 points to 6 here. At St Helens, it finished St Helens 12, York 4, so very, very tight, and probably expecting something similar again this afternoon. Just looking at the crowd and thinking back to last week, it was a record crowd for a Women's Super League fixture at Headingley. It really does feel that the women's game at the moment is riding a bit of a crest of the wave on the back of the World Cup, like you've mentioned.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think getting the clubs behind them and having more of these double header events, you know, don't get me wrong, the crowd last week was absolutely fantastic, but it really helped having the Rhinos men playing afterwards. You know, you make a bit of a spectacle. Clint Goodchild today, he's done a great time. He's having a Women in York event beforehand. He's really pushing the women in sport and women in business and trying to make a bit of a show of the women here. They're just as equals at York here. I think what he's doing is absolutely fantastic, and I think York men's playing away today is probably a bit of a struggle. However, get more double headers, you know, keep it coming. And look, we've got Tanya Arnold in shot there, kind of a stalwart of the women's game, who's been hosting the Women in York's event today, and such a huge advocate for this women's game and pushing it forward, which is fantastic. So more games like this, more events for the women and business, more double headers, and we're going to see the spectators come in and they'll realise what a spectacle of a game this is.
Absolutely. I think what we saw in the World Cup certainly turned a few heads of what we can expect from Women's Rugby League, and was a bit of an eye-opener for many who hadn't seen the game before. And certainly, as far as York is concerned, I think I saw the pink hair of Amy Hardcastle in the crowd there as well. So it's certainly pulling in a few well-known faces this afternoon.
It's a game to watch for both, for all the Women's Super League, but particularly that Leeds, York and Saints kind of rivalry. It's great to see the girls here. We had all the Salford girls over in Headingley last week supporting Inside. Although she's moved from Salford here to York, you know, the women are out in force. The women want the game to grow and supporting each other and basically checking each other out, isn't it?
Spying for later on in the season, no doubt. Looking at the two sides then today, let's start off with St Helens. Changes in the backs of the close season, losing some big names. Amy Hardcastle, of course, one of them. Carrie Roberts leaving St Helens as well, going back into the army. Danny Bush has gone, Rachel Woosy's gone, Beth Stott's retired, just to name some of the players that they've lost. But particularly in the backs, that's where they've been hit quite hard. Still quality in there with Leah Burke and experience from Non Williams. But it will be a different looking Saints, won't it, this afternoon?
Oh, unbelievably so. And look, we can call out the debutants for Saints, we can call out all the new girls stepping up to the academy, but we can also say there's still 10 girls in there in the England performance unit that have played for England. Yeah, massive change, and it's a shame that Faye Gaskin, who is one of probably the best halves in the game, is still not quite ready to come out after suffering another little injury. In a couple of weeks, that half combination is going to look completely different. But I think it's really great for the likes of Amy Taylor to step up here and really show her worth and show what she's capable of. To go into that scrum half position is a massive step up, but she must have trust. She must have proved herself in the pre-season, because I'm pretty sure that Matty Smith's not going to put somebody that's inexperienced there. You talk about Ebony Partington, made her debut from the academy, scored 2 tries in the Challenge Cup victory, was very pivotal for them and has only grown since. I know how great Non Williams can be, and to get a starting position today is just going to make her go out and play a lot harder. So yeah, backline isn't as strong as we used to, but I wouldn't put anything aside just yet. This Saints, they're a formidable team, and you know what the ethos of the club is and how they all work together, so there's going to be some kind of real show and performance today.
Just seeing Matty Smith there going up the steps, another face in the crowd as well for fans that might have been around a while. We just saw a glimpse of Roland Davis there, who was one of the Great Britain tour managers back in the 1980s. He's a regular at the LNER Community Stadium. But Matty Smith in charge of his first competitive game. I spoke to Matty Smith during the week, Danica, and he really seems to get the women's game and understand what they're trying to achieve as well at St Helens.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it is a different entity to the men's game. The women are very different to coach. I wouldn't want to coach a women's team, put it that way. The different emotions typically that you think of a women, but also they're so much more particular. You can say to a man's team, you need to pass a little bit, make your pass a bit longer, and the men will make the pass longer. You say to a woman, make the pass a bit longer. They want to know how, why, when, and they really like the little tiny 1%ers, and I think as a coach, you learn a lot more about yourself when you coach a women's team. I know Adam Cuthbertson did when he was coaching me at Leeds Rhinos. He said it was probably one of the biggest challenges of his life, but I'm great that he's got involved and got on board.
So preparing then for kick-off as the teams come out, led by the captains Sinead Peach and Jodie Cunningham. And we certainly are expecting this to be another battle. What a way to start the 2023 Women's Super League season. First we see the Valkyrie taking on the Rhinos, then we see the Valkyrie taking on St Helens. 3 of the sides expected to be challenging for the top honours this season, coming up against each other very early in this campaign. And it promises, if last season's games were anything to go by, to be an absolute belter of a game here this afternoon at the LNER Community Stadium. The mascots coming out with the York side. St Helens lining up momentarily as well to prepare to get this game going. See some heavy strapping there on the leg of Non Williams. 1 or 2 bumps and bruises still carried, I think, from pre-season into these opening rounds.
I think you can quite possibly say that for the women across the Super League, this has been the strongest and the hardest pre-season. Behind the scenes has upped the strength conditioning massively. The pressure on the girls has been put, and the kind of drive and want to become real athletes has been the key focus. So they have worked unbelievably hard. So this is the day for Saints to get it all started.
Elliot Burrow, your referee for this afternoon's match. He'll be in charge as we get this Group 1 match in the Women's Super League underway. York Valkyrie against St Helens. And it will be the Valkyrie to kick off with the familiar figure of Tara Stanley. So York with that long ball downfield to get things going. Just wrong footing Zoe Harris slightly, but taking it cleanly. And here we go, the first carry of the game. A good tackle coming in from the Valkyrie.
This is going to be really key for Saints now. They just want to get up, they want to get a clean finish, they want to just complete the set, drive up and just get a really clean ball out the back and be looking at the halves, who's going to be doing the kicking today. That's going to be the crucial thing for Saints.
Jodie Cunningham brought down to the tackle, newly announced this week as being the England captain, the New England captain, taking over from her Saints teammate Emily Rudge.
There wasn't really anybody else for that position, was there, Sharon? No. A stalwart of the game. She's working in the game now. She's a fantastic representative and spokesperson, so I think a really great leader, and best mates with Rudgie, so they'll work well together.
And if you're looking for Emily Rudge, her hair colour is slightly different this afternoon. She's already had a carry, and it's more of a reddish tinge, in case you're wondering where the former England captain is this afternoon. So the kick downfield is taken by Ash Hyde for York, one of the scorers last week at Headingley.
Nice heavily strapped head.
Absolutely. We'll be spotting her from outer space, I think, with that wrapped around her head this afternoon. Some heavy tackles coming in early on from St Helens, just trying to establish themselves in the centre of the field. As Sinead Peach goes forward for York. Do you think this will be a forward battle this afternoon?
Oh, massively so. I think the forwards for Saints are going to be really pivotal. That's where most of their experience is. We know how great York's, you know, we look at Amy Staveley taking a carry in, was at Leeds with me for such a long time, and at Bradford before, a real stalwart, a fantastic player, so definitely a forwards battle today.
Here goes Marshall, back in the side. Last week was her first game since last June after a lengthy suspension for throwing a punch in the game against Leeds Rhinos last season. This is the last of the set for the Valkyrie. Goes back to Stanley with the kick, taken safely by Leah Burke. And she looks for space out wide. Ellie Hendry just manages to hang in there, though, and make that tackle.
Ellie was really lucky there. She pulled in a little bit from the edge, and don't give Leah even a centimetre because she will get through. So you need to really watch that edge. That's going to be really crucial for Ellie Hendry today.
And we see the first mistake of the game. Partington trying to offload. The knock-on is given by the referee, and this puts York into a good position.
And that's just a little bit of experience, isn't it? Offloading in that area, just trying to get rid of the ball. Idea was on. They probably weren't ready for it, and therefore a little silly mistake, but just far too close to their try line.
So let's see what York can do with a first real bout of possession in the St Helens 20. The runner comes in from Lacey Owen. 15 metres out from the line. Peach. Here's Liv Wood, another one of the England contingent that's on display here this afternoon. Tackle made by Shani Crowell and Becca Rotherham. Peach. Here's Marshall. Good hands to Stanley. There's space out wide, but the Valkyrie try and run on the angle. The tackle's made on Owen, but the Valkyrie pushing towards the line. Here's Peach to Marshall. Can she smash her way through using the strength that she's got? She can't. The Saints defence really making sure there's no way through at all.
But look how many she's drawing in.
Yeah.
Quick play the ball off the back of there would have left loads of space.
And that's a bit of a loose pass picked up by Tara Stanley, and York still safely in possession, but a real wrestle coming in from Ebony Partington in defence, and this is the last of the set for the Valkyrie. Here's Peach. Rubber kick goes through, rebounds off a foot, but it's picked up in the end. Is it by St Helens? No, it's a knock-on, and that'll just be the handover anyway.
You mentioned the World Cup there, Sharon, and it's key to mention there's 11 players that played in that World Cup squad out on this field today. Potentially 18 England and England Performance Unit players at any one time could be on this field, so it's going to be some spectacle of a game for sure. There's some experience out there.
I hear that there's been a little bit of a hangover from the World Cup for one or two players. I think one or two names that you might have expected to maybe see in a shirt already this season, not quite there. It was such a high, wasn't it, for so many of these players that getting your head back into the game domestically, particularly for the girls who aren't full-time rugby league players, it must be quite a task mentally.
I think you've got to really appreciate that we're not professionals yet, these girls, so when they're playing here tomorrow morning, they're going to get up and some of them are going to go into work. Emily Rudge is a teacher. In that World Cup, for the 3-4 weeks they're in there, they were in camp, so nothing else to worry about. Your meals are chosen, you know what your schedule was of the day. You go from being a completely controlled athlete to having a free thing, and it's a really hard adjustment to make.
Shani Crowell on the halfway line for St Helens. Jones away to Hoyle.
The defence from both teams is fantastic. Nobody's really getting anywhere, are they? It's a real defensive battle, which I knew that Saints would come out, but I'm impressed with York managing to stop these Saints so well.
Yeah, nobody's looked like missing a tackle at all in these early stages, and no half breaks yet either for either team to scramble. They've committed, they've spotted the player, and they've made that tackle completely. There's Bridge, one of the debutants this afternoon, stepping up from the under-19s for St Helens this season.
What a game, eh?
What a game to make your debut in, yeah. So along the line to Amy Taylor, another one of the debutants. Big job for her in the halves. And this is the last for St Helens. Jones again finds Taylor, takes her time with the kick, and Hendry allows it to bounce, and it goes away into touch.
Great kick there. You know, we're kind of an unknown entity in the women's game. If you know the game, you kind of know every player, but with these new ones stepping forward from the academy, you just don't know what to expect. So it's great to see with her hands on the ball, getting the kick away. We were unsure how the kicking was going to go today, but first go, and not a bad place, is it?
Absolutely not. Some good yards gained by that kick. So let's see if York can come away, and let's see if Saints' defence still stands up to do that job as well.
What's really nice is we've seen completed sets. I know it might not be the best spectacle for people to watch, but for the game starting, we're looking at those completions, and we've had a few errors, a few sloppy errors, but really we want to complete your 5 tackles, get to a kick, get some good yardage, and then just then once you've got a few of them, then you can start playing the ball around a bit.
Is that where the women's game has progressed, do you think, over the last few seasons? The percentage of completed sets?
Yeah, so your skill level's definitely up because your fitness is better. You know, we've always had the skill, but maintaining that for 80 minutes, we've never had the push enough for the strength and conditioning, but now it's a real focus. Oh, unfortunate there. It's kind of commentator's curse, that one, isn't it? Particularly on somebody as experienced as Tara Jane Stanley. But yeah, it's just hopefully less of those errors, and you'll see more of the fitness side of it coming through, which means their skill level is better.
Great drive in defence from the Valkyrie on Shani Crowell. I'm sure at some point this afternoon we will end up calling them the Knights, but they are definitely the Valkyrie, as Shona Hoyle drives forward. St Helens still 30 metres away from the Valkyrie line. Here's Taylor again, little ball to Rudge. Rudge hits that defensive line. You could hear the contact as the bodies came together.
And that's just a show, isn't it? In previous years, Rudge would have got through that line, not a problem, but defensively, York have really numbered up. They've really done their homework, and they're cutting down those gaps completely.
Jones, Taylor once again, looks for options, eventually finds Cunningham. Nice little ball to Hoyle. Hoyle drives forward, but still the Valkyrie stand firm. This is the last then for St Helens. Will this be the first points of the game? Zoe Harris puts a kick through. It rebounds off the legs of Peach. The ball comes loose. It's still alive. St Helens still keeping it alive, and the referee in the end blows his whistle. I think it's gone forward somewhere amongst all that. The tackle count had been wiped clean, but that was the first real threat of a try line. See that again there?
Yeah, just the sloppy ball, wasn't it? And then moving it around, and I think maybe she did throw the ball before just going into touch there, but like I say, I'm not down there. I would not like to make that error. Just on observation though, I think maybe she got that away, but you know, a bit of a breather there for York and get them a chance to regroup. And you know, oh no, it's the Saints ball, isn't it? So another defensive set for York.
Fair enough then. Taylor out to Rotherham. Rotherham has got space with Burke. Burke goes for the corner, and Leah Burke's in. She scored tries here for England in the World Cup. She's backed it up this afternoon for St Helens, and the first points of this match go to the visitors. Saints with a 4-0 lead.
You know, I mentioned that earlier about, you know, we've got to keep this, you know, man-to-man marking on Leah Burke. She's absolutely fantastic at kind of finding the gap and going around, and Ellie Hendry's got a job on her today. But you'll see that again, you know, when that ball came out, Ellie Hendry was just pushed a little bit too far in. They hadn't really numbered off, and it's hard coming off the scrum, but you've got to move really quickly. Rely on your Tara should have been shouting there, but just Elliot had to turn her hips. You know, Leah had just had the edge on her, and she is a fast athlete. She's a gymnast by trade. She can move, and you've got to hold your edge. You've got to trust your inside woman and make sure that they're numbering off so you can hold that last person. 15
tries in 18 games for St Helens last season. Leah Burke, and she's started her account for this year nicely as well. So the kicking duties, I wondered who'd take this afternoon. It's Amy Taylor right on the sideline, and this is a tough one for the St Helens halfback. A still afternoon, so there's not really much wind to affect the kicking. And what an effort that was. It looked like for a second it had taken the paint off the outside of the upright, but that's gone straight over. The extra 2 are added. Saints get off to a good start.
Amy Taylor, welcome to the Women's Super League. What a kick that was as well. You know, we like you said, we questioned it, we talked about it, but great start from her, and you know, she seems to get the ball in hand quite a bit, and what you need is a good half that's going to be quite dominant and going to call things and make sure you're confident, you know, either side of you. So that's what we've seen her do. She's been putting her hand up and shouting out, so more of that to come. That really could be where the halves, you know, the halves game, if you've got a confident half. We've got Holly May Dodd in the halves for York, not her natural position, so we'll have to see how well she can direct the team around.
So Tara Stanley kicking off again for the Valkyrie. Harris is underneath it, drops to her knees but takes it cleanly, and it's out and away for Saints again to go with the first drive and bringing play up to the 20-metre line.
He's just going to give Saints that extra boost of confidence now, so we might see them busting a line a little bit more now. Maybe a little bit hesitant, maybe a bit more composed at the start now, but they've got the points down, a bit more confidence, and hopefully we'll see them kind of push forward a little bit harder.
Drive forward from Emily Rudge. Great drive though in defence. Good work in defence from the Valkyrie. Holly Dodd, possibly on her last appearance in a York shirt before that move to Australia, and here goes Burke again, but the play's being brought back by the referee. I don't think anybody on this this side of the ground realised that had happened. I didn't hear a whistle go myself. We just saw Burke going out and away.
And again, like I said, we need to, well, we don't, I'm just watching, not a chance I'd ever play out on that wing, but Ellie Hendry's got a job. She has to get man-to-mark, hips in front, man-to-man marking, sorry, hips in front of Leah Burke. Look at that gap already leaving. She needs to pull herself, you know, to the side and just make sure that she's got that side covered. And Savannah Andrade then, you know, outside of her, inside of her, sorry, needs to be pushing over and keeping that gap.
You do feel that maybe the joy will come for St Helens out wide this afternoon as Hoyle drives forward for the team in red and white, but this is the last of the set. A good stint in defence then for the Valkyrie, keeping St Helens inside their own half of the field, and here comes a boot again of Amy Taylor. Turns Ellie Hendry slightly, but she still manages to keep her body face towards that defensive line as she takes her first carry. That was a tackle of intent coming from St Helens.
You do not want to go to the centre of that field if you're a winger, trust me. It will not be nice, but all credit where it's due, you know, secured the ball and then drive up the middle, give York a chance just to set things up either side.
Jodie Cunningham there like a coiled spring, bouncing up and down on the spot before she made that tackle on Hendry. Certainly the Saints and New England captain looking well up for it.
I mean, that's it. Oh, unfortunate there. Amy Staves just fumbled that ball a little bit, uncharacteristic of her, but great cover then, tackle just to right a few wrongs there. That's the one thing you need to do, is make a mistake, get back up and make sure you kind of write it out.
I think Shona Hoyle was right in her face as she took that, as Burke tries again to find space out wide. The York girls cover it on that occasion, and Burke eventually untangles herself, and the referee, not happy, blows the whistle. I'm not quite sure which way he's going to give this, but Burke's having a real old go with the touch judge. Sinead Peach having a word as well with the referee.
I'm unsure there, because she definitely managed to stay in. You know, her arm was hanging out, but her body was definitely didn't come out that line, because I think Tasmin Menouf got in the way of pulling her out, and then even at that point,
just there ahead, just at the wrong side of the whitewash.
I mean, that was after the tackle was complete, if you ask me. But again, what do I know? Retired prof. I couldn't even know the rules of the game, if I'm honest with you, Sharon.
Did you ever see the whitewash on the wing?
Hey, yeah. Challenge Cup final, I dragged Tyra Jane Stanley out to save a try on the 5 metre.
How about in attack?
No. Don't be so ridiculous.
So the penalty given to the Valkyrie. The ball just raked out of the tackle, says the referee. And Stanley kicks for touch. And that takes York to just inside the Saints half.
Felt like she was aiming for us then, Sharon.
Tamsin Renouf with the tap to Holly Dodd. There's a little step from Dodd. Announced this week that she'll be playing for Canberra Raiders in the NRLW this season. Liv Wood now, another player who was said to have been attracting interest from Australia.
No, it's absolutely fantastic for the girls, and I know there's a couple more in the pipeline to come, but what an opportunity.
Savannah Andrade brought down 20 metres out from the line. Can York get the try to equalise things, or at least close it down to 2 points? Stanley out wide, finds Gale. Gale's a little bit of a stuttering run, tries to cut back in on the angle. Good work again in defence, seeing some great tackles coming in from both sides so far this afternoon. Lacey Owen smashes into that wall of red and white that stands extremely strong.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Stu Barrow, the new head coach of England, is going to have a tough battle selecting his team for the 29th against France watching this.
High kick put in by Tara Stanley, beautifully taken on the far side by St Helens. It's a debutant, Danny McGifford, that's right underneath it. No doubt about that at all. And St Helens absorb that pressure and get the possession back. McGifford, in just her second game of rugby league, her first ever, was in the Saints friendly against Bradford. She was invited to go down and trial for St Helens. She's an athlete really by trade as far as sport is concerned, and apparently very, very fast. I hear she beat Leah Burke in training this week as a penalty is given to St Helens for a high tackle.
Ooh, I mean, going back to that, I want to see that foot race. If a lot of it is coming down St Helens' left-hand side, so, you know, they must have had a lot more play. They're more confident on the left-hand side of things, but if Danny McGifford's got that space, then I want to see that today. Come on, somebody give her the ball, please.
So penalty for St Helens after that high tackle that came in from Andrade for the Valkyrie.
Okay.
Here we go then. Once again, St Helens getting play started with Shani Crowell. A player who certainly feels she's got something to prove, I think, this year after missing out on the World Cup squad.
Yeah, really unfortunate for her, you know. Whatever you see of that fantastic documentary, you know, you had a little bit of an insight into what happened, but what actually happened on the cameras wasn't necessarily what happened off it. So maybe a little bit hard done by, maybe a little bit of work to make up for, but unfortunate error there.
Yeah, the high ball going to Alex Bridge, who just couldn't quite safely get a hand. Well, she got a hand to it, but couldn't control it with that hand. We just see again how the pass came towards her and the knock-on coming. So a bit of a chance now again for the Valkyrie. Just that one try so far in this game from Leah Burke. The clock on your screen, incidentally, just a guide for the time that's passing. And here goes Ashley Hyde, the try scorer last week, on the end of that beautiful pass from Tara Stanley to get the first try of the game for the Valkyrie at Headingley. And now Grace Field carries forward. She's on off the bench for York. And she's come on to replace Rhiannon Marshall. Liv Wood with the drive. St Helens trotting back. York just inside the 20. Dodd to Renouf. Still St Helens absorbing what York are throwing at them at the moment, but here goes Dodd with that step. Half a gap opening up for Dodd. Just around the legs was Emily Rudge with the first of the tacklers to get there. This is the last of the set. Peach, Wood, is a space out wide? Yes, there is. Tara Stanley, can the Valkyrie exploit it? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Emma Kershaw on the end of it. You could see the space opening up on the left-hand side, and York exploit it and get their first try of the afternoon.
That was a bit of a long time coming, wasn't it? We spoke about in that first 10 minutes how completion was fantastic. Then we've seen for the last 8 minutes quite a scrappy play from both teams. I think the pressure and just silly errors of trying to move the ball a little bit too soon, you know, and poor skill just not catching it. And then we've just seen York just drive away. And look, Tara Jane Stanley, if there's any tries today, she's going to be involved somehow. She's not scoring them, she's going to be helping setting them up. And it's just a nice little out the back ball, and then great space. Saints hadn't numbered off properly in defence, and they're just there. You know what? She was very lucky there, to be fair. She went back inside where their defence was, whereas York were left out open on the other side. You know, and that could have gone on the way of Ashley again, but managed to get through. And that again comes from the skill and the experience of Tara Jane Stanley. You know, the halves here today. You know, maybe not by trade. You won't see it. I mean, Liv Gale's been there quite a while, but Holly May Dodd certainly has been. I wouldn't say trapped by being in the halves, but we're not going to see her with a big bounding runs, are we? So relies heavily again on Tara, who is, we've seen her play fullback, we've seen her play centre in the World Cup, haven't we? And we know her skill, and she's going to be very pivotal, not only just for this game, but for York all season, because she's always heavily involved in the tries that are scored and the points that are scored, like as we see here, her taking the kick.
Well, the applause you can hear as we wait for Tara Stanley to take the conversion is for one of the Saints players who's being helped off the field, as doesn't look good. Certainly an ankle problem. I'm trying to quite work out who it is. I couldn't see who it was. Well, it could be, couldn't it? It does have a look of Jodie. She's got her head bowed at the moment, and it's just a little hard to identify her, and arms around her back obscuring the number on the back of her shirt. But that's a blow if she's coming off for St Helens, and hopefully it's not anything too serious, because if it is Jodie Cunningham, of course, we've got the England International coming up in a couple of weeks' time as well. So,
and I'll tell you something, it's Jodie Cunningham, she doesn't go off easily. So that's another thing, you know,
yeah,
not great to see, and I really do hope it's something or nothing, you know, that we had that little injury pre-World Cup. So
still not entirely. Here we go. Yep, Jodie Cunningham. Jodie Cunningham in there with the tackle, and it looks like a leg a little twisted as she went down there. And
yeah, well, I'll tell you now, Jodie doesn't come off easily, so that's a real worry, not only for Saints, but, you know, with 2 weeks to go until that international and her stepping forward as that captain, like, it's given me a bit of chills, if I'm honest with you, just because I know how much of a strong-minded and resilient player that she is. So let's just hope it's a bit of a knock and this is just a bit more precautionary, because that'll be a huge blow.
Yeah, still early in the season. Hopefully it is precautionary and save her now and make sure she's fit later. As Stanley comes in then with the conversion for the Valkyrie, and she's missed it. No conversion added, so Saints still with that 2-point advantage. Tara Stanley last week, a great afternoon with the boot, kicking 5 in that win against Leeds, but not to be so far this afternoon. 6-4 Saints lead.
We've got Vicky Whitfield coming on in Jodie's place there, so a bit of a reshuffle in that pack. I think we might see maybe Shani or Rudgy. Well, I think Shani or Rudgy will push to 13.
So the kickoff comes deep into the York half. It's picked up by Renouf and met pretty quickly. A good advancing line of defence coming from St Helens there, not giving really Renouf chance to get far at all once she'd collected that kickoff. Andrade straight in with the tackle. Vicky Whitfield making her presence known early.
How fantastic is Vicky Whitfield in the World Cup? If you saw any of the ways that she drove that ball, she was hanging out a little bit on the edge. She can move, she can pass, and she is an absolute outstanding prop as it comes to just her power in the middle.
I think it was against Papua New Guinea, wasn't it, where she was absolutely superb. Every time she touched it, she just broke down the defence. She was amazing that night.
Yeah, and she's worked so hard to come back from that ACL injury and get back in the England squad in time to play in the World Cup. And what an outstanding player! And you know, really well done to her for that.
So the ball goes back to Stanley on the last for the Valkyrie. That's a nice kick downfield, but no trouble for Becca Rotherham at fullback. And she makes a good 10 metres or so before that defence comes in and catches up with her. It's almost like, Danica, these I'll say opening stages, we've played 21 minutes or so now. It's almost like a game of chess in the middle, isn't it, as to what move will find that opening and make things crack. Because at the moment, like you said from the start, the defences are standing up pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing, you know, you've worked so hard pre-season to put on loads of different moves and to try different things out. This is the time that Saints can do it. York have maybe had that little run out. Granted, not against the strongest lead side that we'll see, but they've had chance, whereas Saints are still playing in the middle and they're not used to this, you know, huge flow. This is their first game, whereas a pre-season friendly is all well and good, but this is the real bare bones of it.
Yeah, the intensity, and here we go again with Partington. She's looking for Burke, couldn't get that ball away. Burke was hovering around there. In the end, Partington taking the tackle. This is the last of the set to Taylor, who has all the time in the world with that kick, and it's not a bad one either. Oh, well taken there by Kershaw, who comes floating across for the Valkyrie. A beautiful take from the York centre. But the Valkyrie, Stanley, half a breakthrough there. I just wonder if the Valkyrie just need to start putting a bit more pressure on those kicks coming through from Amy Taylor.
Yeah, line speed's huge, you know, a kick chase or, you know, just pushing up in defensively when it goes to the last tackle is what's going to be your bread and butter today. You know, pressure's a massive thing for a kicker. I would never want to do it, but I know that I got told if you can get to it, and even if you're shouting and yelling, put your hands in the air, just puts a little bit of pressure on, doesn't it? And a little bit of fear, maybe. If I was definitely kicking, saw somebody flying at me, I'd be panicked, that's for sure.
Big carry from Grace Field, the last of the set then for the Valkyrie. Stanley kicking downfield, splitting the winger and the full-back. Burke eventually riding out the bounce, and the defence comes in to keep St Helens, for now, inside the 30. Forward was the cry. That's a decision that's been given by the referee
on the old stands there. It was just ever so slightly from Rudgy, but we know that Emily Rudge likes to take the ball right to the line, and just a little bit slow off the floor there, I think. And I think had Tara been in there to take the ball much quicker off the floor, and that's really key, is at the back of a ruck, especially with somebody like Emily Rudge, who's going to run you a really strong, quick line. That ball off the floor needs to be much quicker. and that comes from experience, doesn't it? And playing again up at this level and at this speed, because you go, whether you've played the community game, whether you've played for your academy, stepping up and playing in the Women's Super League, particularly this top tier, the speed of the game is something different. And you know, the change in that for some of the girls is probably one of the biggest adjustments to make, because you can train all you want with the girls and you learn from their skill and their experience, but when you get into a game situation and the speed of the game that the women play at is second to none, and you know, that's the crucial thing for them.
So the sides pack down off the back of that error. The referee, I think, just waiting for all the water carriers to depart the pitch. Quite a few leaving at the moment.
It's the first time I've seen a nice day, Sharon, isn't it?
I know. Gale, long ball to Stanley. Bit of a step, the familiar step, almost a bit of a skip in there as well from Tara Stanley as she tries to bamboozle the defence.
I can tell you now, Tara steps off her left foot every single time, no matter how much you watch it. I could never catch it.
No.
Did it to me numerous times and left me for dead.
Peach then takes her place at acting half. Field gets to her feet, she takes the ball out to Jazz Bell, another player on off the bench. We'll come on to Jazz Bell in just a second as Peach takes it again and away to Field. Field finds Gale. Sorry, Wood. Wood very, very close. The Valkyrie forward, inches away from the line. Will the Valkyrie get the lead for the first time in this game? What a lovely step going from Holly Dodd. And Holly Dodd potentially on a farewell performance for the Valkyrie. Gets a try as well. How key could that be in the bigger picture of this game? The Valkyrie going to the lead.
Well, just look at that celebration, you know, not only for Holly Dodd, but for getting the edge, you know, and breaking it down. It comes from that, you know, the scrum and that error from Saints, and you know, that forward pass, unfortunately, but that's where the Valkyrie were coming in their own, weren't they? And Dodd again, look at that gap, just takes a step, and again, she's known for them stepping, and she's known for seeing the gap and getting through it. Such a young player, but such great vision at her age, and she's unstoppable as well. She's only a slight girl, you know, she's an athlete, she looks great, she works really hard, but she's not your biggest of player, but yet she runs with the power of a prop and the skill of a fullback, you know, so difficult to stop. And I cannot wait to see how she goes at Canberra Raiders. You know, brand new team in the NRLW. So she's kind of also going to a really great club where the expectation is not huge at the minute, unlike some of the other girls. But yeah, a huge loss to York, a huge loss to the Women's Super League, but fantastic for her.
So Tara Stanley preparing to try and add the extras. I do like to see Holly Dodd when she's in the second row and some of the lines that she runs, and again in an England shirt, another player that maybe should have had a bit more game time, but made a real impact when she did come on off the bench.
Oh, without a doubt, one of my players of the tournament, Holly Dodd, just fantastic. And I watched her play in the Year 10 schools finals. Obviously, when she was, I think she was at Castleford or something like that. Gave her player of the match then, and knew she was going to be a superstar.
So Stanley, no mistake this time. The flags are up. 10 points to 6. The Valkyrie go in front. A lovely try from Holly Dodd. Tara Stanley getting off the mark as well this afternoon with the kicking tee. As we see again, Dodd going through, and the way she just angled her body, just making it a little bit harder for the defence to get hold of her.
A lot of it is hips in this game, you know. Once you get your hips in the right place, then particularly in defence, you twist your hip out, and you know, making that tackle back inside is going to be more difficult for you. But you know, she is a young girl that can spring around like nobody's business, so there's going to be no stopping her.
A couple of substitutions for both sides as we get started again with Taylor, but Burke had gone. That slight delay and hesitation, and Burke understandably had gone there, so the referee just bringing it back. And just to say as well, Jodie Cunningham, we're hearing, is getting ice on her left knee, so hopefully again just precautionary and things will settle down for Jodie Cunningham, the St Helens captain. As we see there, a couple, 2 or 3 players just going offside with that hesitation. I think everyone expected Amy Taylor to just take that a little bit quicker. As we see Jodie Cunningham there with the ice. Just at the side of her is Becca Rotherham. She's been substituted as well. And what a mistake from the Valkyrie.
It's really unfortunate for Savannah. When that kick-off before that got pulled back, she dropped the ball there as well, and now she's going to do it again. That pressure, I think, aiming for her. Savannah's an absolutely fantastic player, and I know that she'll take something like that quite personally, but equally what the team needs to do now is get around her, pill up for her, and then really put this play in. But I know that Savannah will step up now and defensively will put in a real shift. But what a girl, what a player, and would love to see her in an England shirt.
She's back in the England performance unit as well. Switched last season from centre into second row. And certainly made that shirt her own for York as Harris goes forward now for St Helens. Lacey Owen in there with the tackle. Oh, great work from the Valkyrie, driving her back a good, 5, 6, 7 metres.
Yeah, fantastic defence, and that's what you're going to... We said it at the start, we've seen it all of this first half. Defensively, they're just putting on a real battle, and particularly down that middle as well.
So Jones assessing what she's got as runners. Shona Hoyle is one of them. Oh, well done, Jazz Bell there, really making sure the tackle technique is correct. Again, we will come on to Jazz Bell in a moment or two as Crowell goes forward for St Helens. Brought down inside the 10, pressure then building from the Saints. Jones switches it back towards the centre of the field with Harris to Taylor. Keeps it moving, finds Partington. There is Bridge, who's got Burke. Can Burke get a second of the game? Not this time. The defence get the upper hand, take her into touch, and Leah Burke denied.
Absolutely outstanding effort there from the defence of York. Saw Ellie Hendry, we've spoken about, stepping inside, maybe holding that ball a little bit longer. Ebony holding it just a little bit longer before she passed it. But again, a young player. And then just look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4 York players in there on her, just to make sure that Leah does not slide through. And we've seen some of the spectacular gymnastics efforts from the World Cup that she can do. But a really outstanding there from Holly Dodd that led that defence again.
Ellie Hendry in a better position as well as the referee spots a knock on from the Valkyrie. This gives Saints the ball back in a great position from the scrum. And you would imagine with pressure like this, defensive sets after defensive sets, things just might crack again in favour of St Helens.
Well, we've seen that, haven't we? We spoke about the first 20 minutes, maybe all right this time. Hasn't been the cleanest of games from either side, really, and I think that just comes from the speed that they're playing at. They've been in pre-season and not really had... you never train at the speed that you play at, so there's that to take into account. There's the pressure, there's playing in front of a good crowd, playing the start of the Super League for the St Helens girls, and York really wanting to just capitalise on that, the lead they've got, and also build from their performance from last week, which is, fantastic. It's hard to write off and not talk about the other side of the Super League. We saw Leeds Rhinos go to Huddersfield on Friday and put 80 points past them. Great for Leeds, but Huddersfield have got a real battle up in the first top, the top tier of this Super League. And today Warrington host Wigan, which will be another fantastic battle. But I've got to say that the Saints, York and Leeds are the really ones to watch this season, aren't they?
Absolutely. As St Helens get the ball away from the scrum with Taylor again. Here's Partington, who's having a bit of joy, let's say, in the centres. Looks like she's enjoying herself playing a little bit further infield, usually seeing her on the wing. As Rudge goes forward now for St Helens. Good work coming in from the Valkyrie once more, defensively. Here's Jones. Taylor along the centre of the field. Nice little layoff from Harris. Oh, good hits coming in from York. Great tackle from Field. And St Helens go again with Crowell. Crowell tries to drive her way through. The black shirts stand resolute. Here's Harris, kick to the corners, a bit of space again out wide, taken though by Hyde. York get that ball. There was a little bit of a gap, I think, there for Danny McGifford, but good positioning from Ashley Hyde.
Yeah, fantastic there, knowing to catch that under the pressure of both Non Williams and Danny coming forward for them, and just shows the skill and the confidence that York have got going forward. It's never nice being on that edge, but well done, Ashley.
And a penalty awarded to the Valkyrie. This will be extra yards for them downfield, as again St Helens just found guilty of just trying to reef the ball out of the tackle. We see there, I think that's Birchall was well involved with that one.
Yeah, but then looking like she's innocent as ever. I think that's just we're coming to the close of this first half, and maybe fatigue, maybe a little bit of tiredness. It's been a bit of a really strong battle defensively for both teams. And this is where you need to really put your training into practice, and that you train off season, and this is where it all comes into play. So I'd really like the second half to be a lot cleaner from both teams. I think this is just some basic errors going forward. Again, like we see there, just not gathering the ball, not stepping up to play it properly, and let's say it's nerves, shall we? Just, you know, as we go forward, but definitely something I'd like to see cleaned up for the second half.
I think probably both coaches, Matty Smith and Lindsay Anfield, would probably agree with you there as you see the wrestle on the floor, and Owen, just as she tried to get to her feet, not a player near her. Shani Crowley cleared out of that tackle, and Owen just not able to retain that possession. And it's basic errors, isn't it? Things like that.
Oh yeah, it's, you know, I say silly ones, but yeah, real simplistic errors. You know, they're unforced at times as well.
Non-Williams for St Helens. Don't feel like we saw too much of her last year. I mean, given the centre shirt and as far as the squad numbers are concerned for this season.
I mean, being a replacement centre before Carrie, you know, after Carrie Robertson, Amy Hardcastle, and to keep herself training and keep herself composed, real credit to her. And I hope, you know, she is a fantastic player. Yeah. She's been in an England shirt before, and I hope this season really sees her coming to her own.
Crowell, little ball once again to Whitfield. Takes some stopping, but the Valkyrie do it. And they just clear out and away for the tackle for the St Helens attack to continue. Taylor, flat ball to Emily Rudge. From this angle it was flat, from the referee's angle it was forward.
We've just seen that a couple of times between that pair in there, haven't we? And either, you know, that they need to have a conversation that Rudge needs to start a little bit, take a step, maybe just hold it a line a little bit. But yeah, you can see on that replay that it's definitely a forward flick, and had it been flat ball, then yeah, beautiful, but just a little bit too, I don't know, you know, who right to speak, kind of a pass the ball, but maybe just turn your hands a little bit next time.
I will say it was so far forward it was already into tomorrow.
Oh.
But not quite the middle of next week, so no, it's not that bad.
Not too bad.
So Tara Stanley then for the Valkyrie. St Helens now having their defence tested up the middle of the field. And 6 again indicated by the referee, as St Helens just a little slow to get away from that ruck area after that tackle on Stanley. Again, Peach with a familiar lift of the arms as well from the acting half position as Jazz Bell goes forward. Jazz Bell, who will serve a one-match ban next week. She will miss the the Valkyries game against Barrow in the Challenge Cup. She was sin-bin last week for that tackle on Zoe Hornby for Leeds, and the ban kicks in next week, as it does in the Championship and League One. It's always the week after compared to Super League, which is the next game. So the ban will kick in next week, which is why she's available for this afternoon. We just see again there as Wood goes through and takes a big challenge from Vicky Whitfield.
And a massive shout out to Zoe Hornby. You know, that tackle on Jazz Bell, and Zoe, she tip tackled, Zoe went down, getting that number 8 shirt, which is a possible favourite of mine from Leeds Rhinos. Played on for 5-10 minutes after, and has actually come away with a bit of a nasty shoulder fracture from it.
Last tackle for the Valkyrie. The kick comes in from Stanley, who's still laying flat on the floor. Maybe a bit of a challenge on her once that kick went, but it's come to nothing at the end of that set, and that will be the handover. York maybe just needing to find something else on the last. We just see the tackle. It was a little, I won't even say late. I think there's already the commitment there for the contact on Tara Stanley. But York maybe just needing a little bit extra on that last.
Yeah, and that comes from, you know, having, you know, people like Sinead Peach stepping up and directing the halves and seeing what they've got on as a play. You know, we've seen them come out the back a lot with Tara Stanley and Sinead Peach linking up, and I think just setting up and making sure they're in the right position will be really crucial for them to get that decent ending.
Rudge thrown to the ground with the tackle from Renouf. Jones goes away to Taylor. Big hit on Vicky Whitfield.
Two people I do not want to run against is Jazz Bell and Grace Field. Absolutely no, thank you.
Yeah, a sandwich that you wouldn't want. And she's back again for more as well, is Hoyle. And this is the last of the set. The arm raised by the referee, and we see the tackle there, really no way through for Whitfield at all. Good kick downfield, nicely taken as well by Tara Stanley, almost disappearing that ball over her shoulder, and a good run as well from the reigning Woman of Steel. Bit of a change, I think, at the acting half for the Valkyrie, as Kershaw tries to drive forward. Now it's Peach returning to that familiar position.
It's a real yo-yo battle, isn't it, down the middle? You know, once you get the sets complete, both teams are, I think, like we've said, and I'm going to keep saying it, I think the defensive efforts from these girls is absolutely fantastic, and there's just a wall, isn't there, you're coming up against.
Oh, and a break coming through from Lacey Owen for the Valkyrie. St Helens recover well in defence, but the first real break of a tackle I think we've seen, certainly from York in this half. Gale along the line to Kershaw, who hits the defensive line of Non-Williams and spins in that tackle. But Williams getting the better of it with the grapple, and the kick goes through, good as a pass though to Shani Crowell from Sinead Peach. And again we just see the back end of the set coming to nothing for York, and an easy one in the end for St Helens.
Yeah, and we saw the hands of Tamsin Renouf and Ellie Hendry go up, because they had nearly a 2-on-1, nearly a 3-on-1 overlap on this side, and the message just not passed along the line quick enough. Saints are definitely not numbered off properly and could have been a better ending.
So a penalty given to St Helens, and this should take them well outside their own 20 again. A bit of a ball steal indicated by the referee. I say a bit of a ball steal, it's either a ball steal or it's not, isn't it? And that obviously was deemed to be one by the referee. And I think we'll just have a bit of a stoppage in play as well. It's Lacey Owen who's just getting some attention from the York physio. Lacey Owen in her second season with the Valkyrie, signed last year after 6 months out of the game. Formerly of Castleford, linking up again with her former coach Lindsay Anfield, here now though at the LNER Community Stadium. And it will be a Saints start once this game gets going again. And Darcy Stott is on for St Helens. She's replacing Shona Hoyle.
You could just see there Matty Smith step down from the top end to pass on a few messages to the team, and I think the message for now should just be composure, completion, and let's regroup in the sheds at half-time.
Yeah, into the final throws of this game. Just to remind you, the clock on your screen is just for guidance. And it's a knock-on for St Helens. This, of course, St Helens' first competitive game of the new season. York had that run out last week against Leeds, and that will make a difference as well, won't it? Just sharpening up, like you said, Annika. There's no way of making up for match conditions, no matter what you do in training. And
I think also the anxiety and the pressure that you put on yourself for that first game as well. You know, there's been a really long pre-season for some of these girls, you know, and the girls that were played in the World Cup got a little bit longer off, but equally we're looking at quite a few months that they've been working, and just the pent-up kind of pressure, anxiety you put on yourself for that first game. York have kind of got that out of the way, and Saints have definitely trying to lose it now.
So Tara Stanley, almost with a second bite of the cherry there at that St Helens defence, rebounded off one attempt, ran laterally, then still couldn't find a way through, and the Saints defence get the better of her just inside the St Helens half. Field. Strong run from her, another one of the England contingent on display. Plays the ball to Peach. Here's Jazz Bell. Looked like she was going to offload that through the back door, but held on to that possession as the defence came in from Emily Rudge for St Helens. Here's Field again. Bit of a high ball. Owen having to snatch at that to really take it in. But York just outside the St Helens 20. Hetherington on off the bench. She might just bring a little bit more creativity. One of the halves for York, and this is the last of the sets. And a scruffy play the ball there. The referee's whistle immediately going. And it will be the handover for St Helens. Again, Lindsay Anfield's going to be a little bit frustrated, isn't she, the way some of these players are finishing off for York?
I mean, unfortunately, you know, we saw Stott's hand in the way at the play of the ball. Did she get in the way? Did Georgie play it a little bit too quickly? Who knows? But yeah, just not the ending that Lindsay would want, and she'll be frustrated as the girls are. It's just silly little errors that they can write up and sort out in the second half.
Saints with the drive then on the first of the set. They will have work to do if they are to score before the half-time hooter. As Shani Crowell takes the ball, drives hard. And the drive back in defence is equally as hard as well, and takes her back almost to the point where she started for the run. It's scruffy again from St Helens. Darcy Stott's involved there.
Darcy just needed to hold that bond onto that ball, particularly in this area of the field. Just take the ball, take up a hit-up drive, settle your plays up, and just keep this ball protected. just pass it. Look, I mean, running at Jazz Bell, you know, I'm probably going to panic as well and want to throw it away, but head down, take the tackle and reset steady.
So the two sides will come together. Darcy Staunton, Pip Birchall both on off the bench, and that combination not the happiest of moves for St Helens. Holly Dodd shows the ball, takes it in, and the hooter goes. The referee indicates that that is the last play of this first half. The Valkyrie go into the dressing room with the advantage, 10 points to 6, 2 tries to 1. It still could be anybody's game, this, in the second half, Danica.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the score is in favour of York, but we've seen both teams, you know, Saints maybe had a few more options in, you know, up in that. In York's end, and was completing a little bit better there. York have probably had about 5 or 6 attempts, and they've completed within their 5 or 10 metres and just not managed to make that completion into points, and handed it over, and not in the best way possible. But yeah, it could be anybody's game. Unfortunately, we see there Jodie going into the sheds with crutches on, which is just a terrible sign for her to see there, and I really hope it's something of nothing.
So here are the tries then we've seen in the first half. Leah Burke getting the first one, opening things up for St Helens.
Yeah, and that just comes again from that defence not really numbering her off right. You've got to put the pressure on Leah Burke. You cannot give her any space, and we've spoken about it for all that first half, but a fantastic athlete, and she's just going to boulder through there, and Saints need to be using that a lot more. And then from York and their response again, Tara Stanley carrying the ball, missing that player, that missed pass there, just to get the ball and push it over, and for them to get the points. And like we said, Tara's going to be involved in these points today if it comes from York. Her or Sinead Peach are really pivotal, and just pushes her nose through to get herself over, which was a real confidence boost there. And again, Holly Dodd with that show and go steps it off and just goes back on that inside, because she sees the gap opening. And that just comes from the defence pushing out just a little bit too quick and leaving what we call a bit of a dog leg, where there's just a hole for Holly to break through. It was a huge gap. Holly doesn't need much more than an inch or two to get through, so that was kind of like her plain sailing and going through. And hopefully we'll see more of that when she goes out to the NRLW for Canberra.
Indeed, so potentially a big second half to come for both of these sides at half-time at the LNER Community Stadium. York Valkyrie lead St Helens by 10 points to 6.
And a Super League season comes to its conclusion here tonight. It is 4 in a row. Robinson is a moment for long. He's kicked it, a brilliant try.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League,
the home of Rugby League online.
Subscribe for exclusive live games from the Betfred Women's Super League and Challenge Cup.
Incredibly proud of my time in the sport. The sport means a great deal to me. It's given me everything I've got, probably more so the friendships and memories that I've got. So to see the shirt behind represent 3 things that I love dearly: the sport Rugby League, International Rugby League in England, the M&D community, and of course Rob Burrow. You combine those 3 and it's very, very powerful, and delighted to see the shirt. It's designed on an England shirt going back to about 2012. Obviously it was red and white, but with the M&D colours on it now, that same design, and it's really fitting and special. You know, Rob is celebrated in this way, the impact and how great it was an England shirt.
Because here comes Alice, and Burrow is a flying machine just to his left. Up he goes, scooting away.
For Rugby League to get behind it and sharing it, I think is incredible. And those guys who get to wear the shirt will feel 10 feet tall having worn it, and there's some irony in that because Rob was only 5'4", but he's been a giant and continues to inspire everybody, and I'm sure the guys who get the chance to wear it will be absolutely inspired. Please keep supporting the MND community, and of course our good friend Rob Burrow. You're all making a massive difference, and you're helping provide hope to a community that really need us.
And a Super League season comes to its conclusion here tonight. in a row. Robinson is a moment for long. He's kicked it. A brilliant try.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League.
The home of Rugby League online.
Subscribe for exclusive live games from the Betfred Women's Super League and Challenge Cup.
And a Super League season comes to its conclusion here tonight. It is 4 in a row. Robinson is a moment for long. He's kicked it. A brilliant try.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League.
The home of Rugby League online.
Subscribe for exclusive live games from the Betfred Women's Super League and Challenge Cup.
Incredibly proud of my time in the sport. The sport means a great deal to me. It's given me everything I've got, probably more so the friendships and memories that I've got. So to see the shirt behind represent three things that I love dearly: the sport rugby league, international rugby league in England, the M&D community, and of course Rob Burrow. You combine those three and it's very, very powerful, and delighted to see the shirt. It's designed on an England shirt going back to about 2012. Obviously it was red and white, but with the M&D colours on it now, that same design, and it's really fitting and special. You know, Rob is celebrated in this way, the impact and how great it was in an England shirt.
Because here comes Helens, and Burrow is a flying machine just to his left. Up he goes, scooting away.
For Rugby League to get behind it and sharing it, I think is incredible. And those guys who get to wear the shirt will feel 10 feet tall having worn it, and there's some irony in that because Rob was only 5'4", but he's been a giant and continues to inspire everybody, and I'm sure the guys who get the chance to wear it will be absolutely inspired. Please keep supporting the M&D community and of course our good friend Rob Burrow. You're all making a massive difference and you're helping provide hope to a community that really need us.
And a Super League season comes to its conclusion here tonight. It is 4 in a row. Robinson is a moment for long. He's kicked it. A brilliant try.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League.
The home of Rugby League online.
Subscribe for exclusive live games from the Betfred Women's Super League and Challenge Cup.
Welcome back to the LNER Community Stadium in York for this Women's Super League match between York Valkyrie and St Helens here on the Sportsman. The Valkyrie, after that first period of 40 minutes with a 10-6 lead, 2 tries for them, Emma Kershaw and Holly Dodd getting the points with 1 conversion from Tara Stanley. Leah Burke getting over for St Helens for Amy Taylor to convert. They opened the scoring, but it's York with the advantage at half-time. Still waiting for the teams to come back out. And we've been watching Danica Prim at the side of me, the St Helens mascot that you can just see just out of picture there, but we just got a quick glimpse of him as we see Matty Smith. But the St Helens mascot dancing, and there's something about mascots dancing along to music that gets me every time. The best thing I've ever seen was Ronnie the Rhino doing the worm in front of the South Stand. Incredible at Leeds. Here we go then with the teams coming back out onto the pitch. York are the first to emerge, still waiting for the sight of the St Helens side. St Helens, who will be, we assume, or have been without, certainly the back end of that first half, without Jodie Cunningham, who left with a knee injury, last seen getting ice on her left knee. How big a loss is that for St Helens?
Oh, it's huge. It's not just a loss for St Helens, but you know, for the girls out there that have just stepped up the academy, she is a leader, not only in how she presents, how she makes sure the girls are motivated, but how she plays as well. She's an absolute formidable force on that field, and you know, she leads by example as well, and she is somebody that when the team are slightly down, she will take the ball and she'll drive it forward. She'll compose the team, she'll compose herself, and she'll make sure that everyone's, you know, calming down. Mistakes happen, scores don't go their way, and she's the player that you want out there just to make sure everyone's feeling confident. You know, Emily Rudge will step up, no doubt, and take that on board and make sure the girls are out there, but I really, really hope that that's something of nothing, but the crutches, you know, to me indicate a little bit worse, and that's going to be a huge loss for England in 2 weeks' time when they play France at the Helliwell Jones.
Absolutely. So St Helens then back out onto the field as well. Be interesting to see if there's been any changes, any tightening to the play that we see in the second half after time in the dressing rooms with the respective coaches for this second period here in this Group 1 match of the Women's Super League. Just the first round, the first game got things underway last week between York and Leeds, and here we go with St Helens getting the second half underway. The kickoff goes out and it's taken by Savannah Andrade for York, and she drives that in safely.
Not the cleanest of takes, she let it bounce, but then, you know, she takes a really good drive forward off the back of that and then just build up that confidence. I think Lindsay would have said to these girls, you know, you've got to compose yourself and you've got to cut out these errors. It's very uncharacteristic of York, and it's what's kind of killing them a little bit.
St Helens making 1 or 2 errors of their own in that first 40 as well, but as we've mentioned, this is their first competitive game. York already with that match last week under their belt as well. A good drive coming forward from the Valkyrie, and Field gets to her feet, plays it quickly to Sinead Peach. Now it's Bell. This is the last of the set for York. Peach sends it back to Stanley with the high kick. And that's allowed to bounce, and that goes dead in goal. It looked for a second like Ebony Partington almost put her hands on her head there. I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, but I think she just wasn't sure where the posts were behind her.
Well, we've seen Rebecca Rodram go off, and you know, I'm unsure as to where she's gone. And Ebony Partington's gone from the wing last season to centre, and now huge, you know, a job she's got going in at full back there for. And they're going to look. We've got Jodie there. Unfortunately, she's got a big leg brace on as well, which indicates a, you know, severe knee injury. Hopefully it's nothing, you know, that's going to keep her out for the rest of the season, but really unfortunate for her.
Yeah, Jodie Cunningham on the bench alongside Faye Gaskin, the Saints halfback who we mentioned. She hasn't played since that Challenge Cup final back in 2021 when she suffered a horrendous knee injury. So I'm sure she'll know all about knee problems if she's sitting at the side of Faye Gaskin this afternoon, as St Helens try and keep the ball alive, and in doing so put it to ground. York pop up with the possession just on the halfway line. Here's Andrade.
It's a really good position now for York. They're starting a good place. You saw the last set, they sent it up the middle. We did their one-up plays, you know, really got the yardage now. And they're in a good position to do it. Sinead thought she saw something there, took the ball herself. Just needs to get something off the back of her, because when she goes, she really does make a break.
Bell tries to do some hard yards up the centre for York. 3 defenders around her from St Helens. Peach again. She's got the runner of Dodd. Straight into the chest of Shani Crowell there. She wasn't backing down, Holly Dodd, with that run.
it's good to note Sinead Peach going against Tara Jones, two nines that could feature for England in 2 weeks, and on that Kira Bennett, really tough pick for Stu Barrow for that in 2 weeks' time.
Blessed with hookers at the moment, I think, as far as England are concerned. This is the last of the set. A good carry forward from Field, setting up the position, 10 metres out, long ball out wide again from Stanley to try and find Hyde. It was successful last week against the Rhinos. It led to a try. This week it hasn't. Spotted by the St Helens defence, who were in good position there, and that's the handover.
We haven't seen the ball come down either of these sides too much. You know, the try came from Tara before when she did that looping pass back out, but in terms of the play, Saints have been very quiet on their right-hand side, and York have been preferable on their left-hand side, so be interested to see it come down this side of the field a little bit more.
So it's St Helens then with that possession, and Pip Birchall brought down, still inside her own 20. And Jones again from acting half. You mentioned about the hooking situation. We're saying blessed in the hooking department for England, and the battle today between Peach and Jones. If you look at a team list before this game even started, that was one thing that caught your eye.
Oh, unbelievably so. You know, and Sinead was really unfortunate last year not to feature for England. She is an outstanding hooker, and she was going against, you know, her teammate Tara for the Woman of Steel. You know, I've got no doubt the way that she plays, she could be in contention again this year. An outstanding hooker who is definitely one to watch.
Well, a great kick coming through Field from St Helens, watched by the Valkyrie defence. Ellie Hendry just really having to be careful there, and there was a thunder of hooves coming up behind her from Leah Burke. But I think the pace of the ball and the space and the time as well just going in York's favour there, because I think if Burke had got to that and picked it up, was able to pick it up cleanly, she'd have been through and away as Owen goes for York. Good run from her.
Fantastic run there by Lacey Owen, just managing to step away through and get some really great yardage, find a front, and a great clean play the ball to Sinead Peach.
Bell with a short ball to Field. Looked like there could have been a bit more space towards the left-hand side of Field, but the forward took it in anyway, and now here's Peach finding a gap herself, going from acting half. You just wonder if she's starting to see one or two gaps like that.
When Sinead goes, you've got to get somebody on her shoulder. You know, the props maybe not the perfect people because she's absolutely rapid as Sinead Peach, but somebody that second row needs to step in and just run with her, because she's going to get a clean ball to you if she makes a break.
Yeah, you need somebody like Tara Stanley sniffing around, don't you, under that circumstance. So here's Holly Dodd, out wide to Stanley. Again, that step comes in from the York full-back. And the ball's out as well. York keeping it alive. And is this going to be a try for the Valkyrie? No, the flag goes up. The tackle is completed. Ellie Hendry is taken into touch. It looked like half a sniff of space as well for Tamsin Renouf. But St Helens do the job.
Yeah, really unfortunate for York, but great defensive effort from St Helens. You've got to, you know, credit where credit's due. They really pushed out and kept them out. You know, there wasn't much of a space, and the Saints had numbered off quite well, and look at that. The three people there, you're really making sure that tackle is a strong tackle and getting her into touch.
Yeah, we see again Renouf just finding Hendry, trying to tiptoe away down the line. Oh, great from St Helens in defence there. That third body coming in, as you say, Danica, just absolutely making certain that was going nowhere for York.
I think both teams are getting numbers in that ruck today, which is slowing down the speed a little bit and just making that tackle just a real, you know, beat of a tackle. It's great.
There's some big hits that have come in throughout this game, and it just feels like they're starting to get slightly bigger as well. It feels like it's taken a while, but maybe both these sides really hitting the straps now, as 6 again is indicated by the referee. The tackle count wiped clean as some big carries coming forward from St Helens to Vicky Whitfield. Now it's Shani Crowell. The crowd starting to lift a little bit as well here at the Community Stadium. And Crowell wins the wrestle and the penalty as well. Just Dodd looking a little bit incredulous at the referee as the decision is given.
It looked like Shani Crowell pulled her arm out, tactically used that, you know. Holly Dad had hold of it, and it just looked like that Holly ripped it, but I did think Shani played her part, and, you know, rightly so, just pulled it out, and the two of them could have gone either way, that couldn't it? But luckily for Saints, got to try and keep hold of that ball the best you can though, Shani.
So St Helens with the drive again up the centre of the field, legs pumping away, trying to get the extra yards. Jones at acting half. From Rudge, keeps it moving. trying to find space out wide. York's defence up to the challenge so far. Going on the short side, St Helens. Bridge brought down, but now just inside the York 30. Steady progress, but progress nonetheless for St Helens on this particular set. And the drive again coming forward from Saints up the middle of the field. Jones looks towards her right, takes it to her left, finds it herself from acting half, sees a half gap and goes for it. Closed down by Andrade and Hetherington for York. Still going on the short side, St Helens, keeping it moving out wide from Rudge. Finds Burke. Burke tries to step inside. And a forward pass given by the referee. Again, Emily Rudge involved in that forward pass. And that's the handover to the Valkyrie.
Yeah, another forward pass on that edge, and it seems to be coming quite a bit on that side of it, and it's just that last second, you know, Rudge just letting go of the ball a little bit too soon, and unfortunately Leah Burke couldn't make her way through there, but I'd really like to see Saints now flip it over a little bit and let it come down Zoe Harris's side.
So Hyde at acting half, as the Valkyrie try and just clear away from their own 20. There's Stanley, takes it herself, and a penalty for offside. I think that's the first offside we've seen so far this match.
Yeah, absolutely, and so early on in the second half is just a little bit of being eager rather than not getting back, isn't it? It's just stepping forward a little bit too soon.
And I think right in front of the referee as well. If you're going to be offside, don't be the player that's standing next to the ref when you do it. Although sometimes, let's be honest, we see it happen and nothing's given. I'm sure many fans of many teams will have had that happen to them.
I don't know what you're talking about. It never happened to me ever.
So York with the ball, with Peach. She's got the runner of Hetherington. Mansell starting on the bench this afternoon, the halfback. And here's Peach again. Takes it to Stanley. Again, that kick of the feet from Tara Stanley.
Still moving.
Taken by St Helens, Darcy Stott, Pip Birchall in there with the tackle as well. Helping out Tara Jones defensively as York go forward once more with Andrade. She tries to just come inside a little bit further. And again, a quicker play of the ball is urged by Sinead Peach, who takes it herself, who goes for the line herself as well. The defence is there. This is the last for York, who are camping now on that St Helens line. It goes back to Hetherington. Hetherington caught by Jones, still going as well. But Jones very fast out of that line, really putting any doubt that Hetherington could do anything with that ball, properly clearing it away entirely and giving chance for teammates to come through and really complete that tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoken about the Sinead Peach and Tara Jones. Both of them are known for making a break and going, and neither of them have been really given the opportunity today, which is credit to either team for making sure that they've shut that down, because they know they're capable of, but really need to push that forward.
And again, we see a penalty. Again, a ball coming loose from the tackle, and again deemed to have been ripped as well. Both sides have fallen foul of this so many times this afternoon. That's certainly got to be an area that the coaches will be looking at cleaning up.
It's also an area that is quite questionable as well. It's quite difficult, you know, unless it's a real obvious. Sometimes it's not, for me, as clean as it as possibly looks on the field, maybe, you know. And again, I hate to do that job, so I'm sending up here just making my own assumptions of it. But there's a real fine line between whether it's a rip or a knock on and letting go of that ball.
Short ball given by Zoe Harris to find Birchall. And St Helens again coming up towards their own 40, trying to find their way through with Darcy Stott. Stott driven back by Bell and Field. That prop sandwich properly coming together there and making sure of the tackle. And half a break coming from St Helens, again covered well by York, but St Helens just trying to start to get a bit more momentum to their forward play at the moment. Crowell spins out of the tackle, keeps it going to Bridge, covered again by the York defence. But St Helens starting to make yards a little quicker coming upfield, as you see the break again coming from Emily Rudge. And Rudge again with the ball, did well to take that. It was almost around her hips, just fumbled with it slightly and managed to take it clean in the end. And this is the last of the set.
Just seen her feature a little bit more and take the ball to the line a little bit more than she was in the first half, is what we want. You know, such an experienced runner, such a great person to, you know. And
here's Williams. She's looking for support. And she's got support back on the inside, still on the last for St Helens. It's with Partington. She's smothered there though by the defence. Play just starting to break a little bit there for St Helens. That's when, looks like the men's team, they can be dangerous and throwing the ball around.
Yeah, Williams just wanted to get that ball out, you know, a little bit quicker to Danny on the edge, but she didn't seem to be able to do it, and that was unfortunate because Danny had a great clean run in.
We wouldn't have maybe seen Danny McGifford's pace from that far out, but still she would have been clean through, and it would have been interesting to see how quickly she could have put the afterburners on, because it sounds like her reputation for speed could be something that grows potentially as this season goes on.
Yeah, I think she's yet to get her hands on the ball properly, hasn't she? She's not really, like I said, it's not really come down this end with Zoe Harris and Non Williams, so I'd like to see a little bit more of that. You can see the potential there. They managed to push the ball forward, so maybe that's an angle they need to start looking at.
So York go forward once more with Wood. She was one of the starting props this afternoon for the Valkyrie. And now it's Stanley with ball in hand, kick downfield. And there goes McGifford. You can see the sprinter in her there, the style of the run as she goes back to pick up the ball in space. Gets around Kershaw to start with, but Hyde backs that up and completes that tackle.
Gingerly carried in two hands there. You know, she's probably been told to carry two hands, but at that pace out, at that far out a wing, and once they took it in and just show your speed and your step, and maybe not, you know, just keep it safe and took it away.
An athlete at Wigan Harriers. You could see the style of it, couldn't you, where her arms were going, and that proper drive of a sprinter.
Go on, somebody give her the ball. We want to see what she's capable of.
We do. We do.
If for nothing else, just for the entertainment value.
Shani Crowell brought down in a good challenge from Holly Dodd. And again, Jones sends the ball on the short side. Saints playing it back on the inside though. And this is the last for St Helens, who have only really got as far as their own 30. Goes back to Harris. The kick is high, it's spinning. That'll be an awkward one for Tara Stanley. Takes it well.
Not a worry there, not a worry at all. I think if I want to back anybody to catch a high ball, it's going to be that woman out on that field now, and a fantastic player, and really likes the pressure of it too.
She's solid, isn't she, Tara Stanley? It's the consistency. Yes, she makes errors in games. Everybody does. But she's so solid and consistent, is Tara Stanley.
Yeah, it was a real competition between her and Caitlin Beavers last week, wasn't it? We maybe saw Caitlin just slightly get the better of her at times, but, you know, Tara came back powering through and, won an outstanding player on the field.
Another position, I think, potentially blessed in there for England at full-back with, well, and at centre, really, isn't it? You can play Caitlin or Tara in either place now, it seems.
Yeah, really, I enjoyed seeing Tara in the centre, but for me, a little bit, not of a waste, because that's a horrible thing to say, but she's so good out back as a full-back. I think, you know, she'd be my starting full-back for England for sure.
The Valkyrie picking up the pace. The kick through goes from Sinead Peach. That had too much on it, though, too much weight and pace. And that goes behind the dead ball line.
It'll be really interesting to see what they do at England in 2 weeks' time. You know, obviously looking on the bench at Jodie Cunningham doesn't look great, but you know, you've got Sinead Peach now stepping up. Unfortunately, that kick was just a little bit too heavy, but you've got, you know, a few potential girls leaving to go to the NRLW, and that opens up spaces for some of the new recruits to come forward, some changing positions from last season, and some real athletes coming through. So really can't wait to see what Stu Barrow does to this new look kind of England squad.
Birchall with the first carry for St Helens. Again, the Valkyrie there with the tackle. The defences this afternoon of both these sides so far has been absolutely superb, neither giving an inch, and Crowell gets that ball away. It's picked up by Hoyle, who manages to gain some valuable extra metres for St Helens.
Another one with a really distinctive running style. She doesn't look at, when we try and tackle somebody like Shona Hall, she's like, her arms are everywhere. She's so hard to get hold of and to stop.
And I understand she's trained the house down as well in the pre-season for St Helens. The ball again with Taylor. Out along the line, Partington finds Bridge. Again, a good tackle coming in from York. The hit is there, and the player going straight down. Holly Dodd, the player that's executing that piece of defence for the Valkyrie. But St Helens still with that possession inside the York half of the field now. Jones goes back to Taylor. Finds Harris. Harris with the kick. That's into space, and here's McGifford charging through. I think Tara Stanley has seen her. Stanley looking very cool about it. McGifford there misses the tackle, giving Stanley chance and space to just clear away from the line. But a nice kick from Zoe Harris and a great chase from McGifford.
You can see the potential McGifford's got there, the pace she's got there, what we spoke about, we wanted to see. But just that confidence then to hold and know when to stop, and just to watch your feet a little bit and wait out the tackle, wait out the step from Tara, but straight in there, and all it takes is Tara just to slide away, and you've gone too far.
Well, certainly with Danny McGifford, as we've mentioned before, playing her second game of rugby league ever. The first one was a friendly against Bradford Bulls, so a bit of a contrast from what she will have faced in a friendly to what she's facing against York today.
Just a little, yeah.
but the rugby nous will come with time, won't it? The more she plays, the more she will become confident.
We can see her, she's dropping back now, ready for this kick to come. So she's been taught well. You know, she's got some fantastic people at St Helens to teach her and to lead from. So, you know, really great positioning already, and not being told to do that, just doing that instinctively is great.
And that was a good kick downfield as well from the Valkyrie. Oh, what a hit on Leah Burke too. She's made good yards for St Helens, and she needed to, because the kick was so deep downfield, and St Helens again launched that attack coming forward. Jones again gives it to Crowell, and Crowell takes it in. She'll bring play towards the halfway line as Sinead Peach has come off now for York. Rhiannon Marshall back on the field for the Valkyrie. And that could make a difference. We see Katie Mottershead as well on off the bench for St Helens as they try and move the ball out. Half a gap is there, and it's Emily Rudge that's gone through it. Tara Stanley is first on the scene for the tackle. Liv Wood comes through and helps her in the end, and this is a last for Saints. The momentum is with them. Harris with the pass. Stutters, steps, tries to go through, and then puts a bit of a nothing kick in the end. She had no options at all. The defence was on her, but a great break, putting St Helens in that position from Emily Rudge.
I'll tell you something, that is the Emily Rudge we know and we love, making that break. Big fend with the hand, you know, the determination in the face there just to push forward, making it really difficult for Tara to get her, but Liv Wood coming in and kind of saving the day, and unfortunately Zoe Harris just not been able to come up with anything much after that. A little bit overrun there by Shona Hoyle, I think, and left her with having to kind of just try and get out of her hands as quickly as she could.
So York survived that attack from St Helens. No points at all yet in this second half. This is exactly the same scoreline as it was at the end of the first, as we reach around the hour mark of this match. Two of the big hitters coming together this afternoon in this one, both expected to pick up some sort of silverware. St Helens are Challenge Cup holders, York the league leaders, shield holders from last year, and grand final runners up. Of course, St Helens will be keen to put things right and not fall at that final hurdle this year and find themselves back in the grand final too, and throw Leeds Rhinos in the mix. And we've got a real competition on our hands in Group 1 potentially again for 2023 as the the Valkyrie go forward, and it's Tamsin Renouf, the pass from Holly Dodd, and it was like the parting of the seas in defence as Tamsin Renouf slides straight through and gives the Valkyrie what could be a crucial advantage.
And we've been waiting, haven't we, to see the break. We're going to see where the gap in the defence is going to open up. It's taken us over an hour to get to that point and to find the space where there's that break in defence and there's just that mismatch. And a fantastic run there through from Tamsin, and that comes again just from moving this ball around and just breaking that defence. And the quick play of the ball is so crucial in order to get it. And as we see there, just getting the ball out, and Holly Dodd just holding it, running across, giving a bit of a show and go, and giving the options there, and just a fantastic cut back inside there, and there's nothing that Saints could do about that. The chase was on, but just a little push Leah Burke off the mark there, and a nice little walk through for her. But that comes from Holly Dodd, you know, out of position, playing in the halves. You know, she's a 13, so she's a fantastic ball handler, she's a fantastic runner, second row 13 that she plays, so in a slightly new position. Built a bit of confidence, I think, in the second half, which gave her the chance to run with the ball a little bit and offer the options out, and Tamsin was just in the right space at the right time, and great cut through there.
14-6, Tara Stanley with the chance to tag on the extra 2 for the Valkyrie.
going to say it's a preferred side, but don't say it's commentator's curse, isn't it? But I've done it. My preferred side, this one for sure.
1 from 2 for Tara Stanley this afternoon. That was the 3rd try of this match for the Valkyrie. And the ground holds its breath until the flags are shown. And Tara Stanley, 2 from 3. And that has really opened things up. A 10-point advantage now for the Valkyrie.
Yeah, and that's the confidence that they needed. Somebody needed to push over, didn't they? And just break that kind of truce that was happening. And, you know, great work from Holly Dodd, but it can't take away from Tamsin there. She still had a lot of work to do herself. You know, it's the first time we've seen a real great break like that. We saw Emily Rudge potentially with one earlier on. This one just happened to be in the right area of the field for Tamsin to put the ball down, but still had a bit of work to do to knock off Leah Burke from the tackle.
Kick-off taken by Savannah Andrade as she drives forward again towards the St Helens line. Just looking down on the Saints left-hand side where that break came, it's been so solid all afternoon. I think Alex Bridge was out there as well as the gap was found that Renouf managed to exploit. There's a little bit of inexperience, shall we say, now on the left-hand side other than Leah Burke for St Helens?
Yeah, you could say that, but they've been going really well down that side, and defensively all it takes, isn't it, is a really quick play of the ball, and Holly Dodd just cutting the line across. So inexperience maybe, but I don't think even the most experienced centres would be able to have handled Holly Dodd just pulling the defence over, and she showed the ball twice, which is a fantastic thing for her to do out of position, which then it makes you stutter and wait in defensively because you're not sure where it's going to go. You want to run up and make the line speed, but you've got to hold back where the ball's going to go and watch that ultimately.
Lacey Owen met by the reception committee of Non-Williams. And now it's Grace Field, and again York find themselves already inside the St Helens 20 with potentially another chance of setting something up. Here's Marshall for York. Good ball to Stanley. Finds Dodd again. Dodd goes around the outside. She's got support again from Renouf, but the ball comes loose. Forward, says the referee. Of course it went forward as it landed behind the in-goal line. It'd be interesting to see this one back and see if Renouf was trying to find Ellie Hendry.
Well, it looked there. We saw it look quite quickly there. It's just not catching the ball and cleanly catching, you know, but it's just a great defence there from Saints that's pushed up. It didn't give Tamsin time just to get the ball in hand and to push it over to Hendry. So I think we'll credit York for moving the ball, but extra credit goes to Saints for that defensive effort there.
Yeah, the pressure on Renouf's pass of the speed she had to try and get that away to Hendry, and not quite the control that would have been desired, I think, from Tamsin Renouf, and it rebounding almost off the face of Ellie Hendry because of the work that St Helens were doing in defence.
I think we can see Lacey Owen going over on the other side, and she's had an absolute outstanding game. She's been really great, you know, moving this ball forward, and a real fantastic player. So hopefully she's not got anything too serious, but gives chance for Amy Stavely to come back on. And Amy Staves, got to be one of my favourite people in the women's game, and I really hope that she settles into life here at York and finds a flow again and enjoys playing a rugby.
Yeah, good sign, I think, in the close season for the Valkyrie. St Helens come forward now with Alex Bridge. Still deep inside their own half, coming up to the 30-metre line. Crowell goes through as a dummy runner. Jones takes the pass before she is met by the defence, and this is the last of the set. Well done by the Valkyrie defensively, forcing St Helens still inside their own half of the field. The kick comes out from Zoe Harris, and here comes Tara Stanley. You could almost hear the motor winding up there as she took that and set off. And it feels that this York side is really growing now at this point in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been much more dominant. They've been taking the ball to the line, really forcing it forward. We've seen Holly Dodd really start to settle into that half role and to take some kind of ownership and move that ball too. But that forward unit has really been pivotal. And they're not on the field now, but Grace Field and Jazz Bell, they remind me very much of Andy Dobson and Emma Slowe, who are my real stalwarts and my heroes of the prop game. And
as Marshall breaks through, she slipped out of the tackle, and an easy try in the end for Rhiannon Marshall, right underneath the post. Still plenty of time to go in this game, but that mounting is getting higher for St Helens as York Valkyrie stretch that lead again.
Absolutely outstanding effort. Really happy for Rhiannon Marshall to get a name on the board and to get over. She took a year out last year really to kind of reset herself and re-find herself, you know, really difficult, and we've got Georgie in, just an easy ball to Rhiannon. Rhiannon there, show and go. 2 little players in front of her, breaks the line. They turn their hips already because that show and go. It's something that Rhee's really known for. Playing prop, can play second row, can play half, can play 13, a real skillful. She took a really bad hit for the women's game last season, the season before. She got that punch, not condoning it at all, but a 4-match ban in a season where you don't have that many games as the men, and taking 4 matches over half a season gone. Coming back from that is really difficult, and and finding your feet again. And I think she just took some time to re-find herself, recompose, getting herself back match fit again, and really got to see her go over, and I'm really glad to see her back in the game.
Another player who's trained very well apparently in the close season, according to Lindsay Anfield, as Tara Stanley right in front of the post. And again, you want to say this should be an easy conversion for a player, for a kicker of her quality, but we're not saying anything until it's done. And the 2 go through. 22 points to 6 then. Suddenly the Valkyrie really find themselves well in command of this game on the scoreboard. And we just see the try again, just a little bit flat-footed in defence there, St Helens.
I thought she had great support. There was an option outside of Rhee to pass that ball over, and she just didn't need to. She saw the little gap, and as respectfully as I can do, Rhee was going up against girls that weren't quite her size, and she backed herself, which is what I need to see more of from Rhiannon Marshall. Build your confidence back up, build your skill level and your fitness back up, and she'll be an outstanding player in the Women's Super League.
Going for a shorter kick-off this time, St Helens. Zoe Harris chases it through. It's taken by Amy Staveley, almost around her knees. She did well there to hang on to that with the defence coming onto her to gain some sort of control. So Stanley brought down. And it's Georgie Hetherington at acting half. Just to remind you, Sinead Peach off the field at the moment, as Grace Field takes it for the Valkyrie. Hetherington probably offering something a little different at acting half in the hooking position, usually seen as half back. And she directs play as well. Points left, sends it right to Rhiannon Marshall, who keeps it going to Dodd. Bit of a wild ball back because of the attention of the defence, and the attention of the defence has paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for Leah Burke then to put the pressure on, and York maybe throwing the ball out when they shouldn't really need to, and just a little bit too hard. You get to a point and sometimes you can see that the option's on, but it's quite often the better option just to hold and take the tackle. Unfortunate for Rhee to be the one that's kind of on the back end of that, because it was no fault of her own, but absolutely fantastic defence there from St Helens to put that pressure on.
So St Helens with the ball away from the base of the scrum with Mottershead, and now it's Bridge. Again, we see the York defence combining in twos. Andrade and Renouf together with a good effort with the tackle. Emily Rudge, who has really stood up, hasn't she, since Jodie Cunningham went off. You talk about leaders on a field, Danica. You've got 2 of the best for St Helens with Cunningham and Emily Rudge, and since Cunningham went off, Rudge has really stood up and led from the front.
Well, I think it's taken a time. I think more this second half we've seen Emily Rudge step up, and we've seen her she's been given the chance to make those bouldering runs that we know she can do. And I think it's more the fact that the options have come in. The fatigue's already setting for both teams, and Emily will be one of the fittest out there. She works so hard, so now's the time that you're going to see that more often.
Kick over the top from Harris. Hyde watches it, takes it in the end again. Harris is there, just Tara Stanley just making sure she's out of the way, and
ever so slowly making sure she's out of the way.
And now it's Stanley with that possession. I was waiting for the referee to potentially blow for some sort of obstruction call, but it never came. Here's Renouf again, one of the try scorers this afternoon for York.
We've seen Renouf step up the second half as well. I was really making an effort and putting herself out there and getting her hands on the ball, getting some yardage, and really making an impact for York and driving them forward.
So the play of the ball starts again, and here is Amy Staveley. You just see the play of the ball again. The referee not quite happy with that, and made York take it again, as we see Stanley now trying to find half a break, trying to duck underneath the tackle, and this time it's St Helens going well in defence, keeping York back in their own 40-metre area. Marshall with the kick. Oh, great positioning from Leah Burke. It was as if she knew that was coming long before it actually happened. The way she was standing,
I think she had more notice than Rihanna Marshall did for that kick then. So Reed did really well to get the kick away and get a little bit of yardage. But Leah Burke, an outstanding athlete and player. So will always be ready and in position.
She's a player that seems to have come on so much in these last 12 months and again was a great player for England in the World Cup. The way she combined on the end of some of the kicks we saw from Courtney Winfield Hill was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, and comes from, played a bit of rugby union as well in a time, so gymnastics, rugby union, rugby league, just one of those people that's probably good at everything. I aspire to be like her, but rugby league, I think, we've won out of all the sports, managing to get her play in the Women's Super League and in the World Cup.
So St Helens Taylor puts the kick through. And no problem there at all.
Again, speaking of Leah Burke, follows that ball, first the tackle, absolutely outstanding athlete.
And here's Tara Stanley trying to find a gap down that wing channel as well. Not to be. I think that was Burke involved there as well, wasn't it, with Partington?
Yeah. Actually, to make a tackle, spring up, make another one again. That's exactly what you want.
Andrade on the floor. The referee again sees a problem. The ball actually came out of there well before Andrade was even alive to it, if you see what I mean. Yeah, the ball coming loose, and that's given us another rip. And I'm looking at that, I'm not sure.
There's been a lot of questionable rips today, I think, for me, Sharon. Again, I will hold my hands up. I'm not a referee. Don't want to be on the field doing that, but very questionable to say if they're rips or not.
So York with, again, the ball and trying to come away from their own half of the field. Jazz Bell back on. She's replaced Gracefield.
I go back to the Jazz Bell and Gracefield combination. I mentioned Emma Slow and Andrea Dobson, two fantastic props that really led forward, kind of were the pinnacle of when the Super League was coming about, and they were the ones to really watch then. And I love being this part of this new modern game, the girls going forward, but I've got to give credit to the girls before them that have really taught a lot of the girls on the field and taught me what to do, and really were the outstanding players for England and for their clubs in the time.
Yeah, and the generations before them as well. Tara Stanley for York. The runner went through from Andrade and everybody just stopped. I think everybody thought Andrade had got it, including Savannah Andrade, but it's Tara Stanley still with that possession. This is the last for the Valkyrie. It goes back to Sinead Peach, who's back on off the bench. That sends a bit of a scramble back there for Partington. She's chased down as well by Tamsin Renouf, but the ball is seen to go dead safely by the St Helens centre.
Renouf has been another fantastic play, especially in this second half, and just a little bit of a differently weighted kick. Maybe she would have got on the back of that, but great to have Sinead Peach back on the field. I think confidence for York as well.
Yeah, great leader for York. As Shani Crowell gets to her feet, plays the ball to Mottershead. Another one is Katie Mottershead, as a good run comes from Vicky Whitfield. Katie Mottershead, another one that's come through from the under-19s, made her debut last year for St Helens. It was a try-scoring debut as well at Barrow in the Challenge Cup. Certainly another one to watch for the future as Partington tries to find a way through on the edges, but the pass isn't clean to Leah Burke. Again, we see a knock-on from St Helens.
Just another one of those, isn't it? Somebody needed to take the ball, and it's great in keeping this ball alive and trying to move it around, but from the few plays before, Leah managed to get fingers to it. I think the girls, we saw it go to Rudge and back to Taylor, and then back out again to Partington, and it just was one of those. It wasn't clean enough really, and great idea, but there's where somebody needs to step on, just say take the ball and settle it in.
So York out of the base of the scrum. Gale to Stanley. Just had to hesitate before she took that pass, just allowed the defence a little more time to move up onto her.
6 again, too slow, come on.
Peach again with the offload to Marshall. And York 30 metres out from the Saints line, but certainly in these last 10 minutes or so, I think York have certainly found the gaps a little easier to come by in that St Helens defence as they send it to Holly Dodd with the pass to Andrade. Again, she hits that ball at pace. The defence reads it and closes the gap. Peach goes herself from acting half. Can she score from here? The defence says no. Great work from Saints, really coming in and surrounding her like a gang tackle right around her and making sure that that line stays solid. And now it's Andrade, spins, looks to try to get that ball away, which she does. And York still with that possession, but St Helens complete the tackle. This is the last of the set. Peach goes back to Stanley with the kick. It's high, it's into space, it just outruns Hyde. I think if that could have been taken cleanly and not allowed to bounce, it could have been another try, but good work from Non-Williams just getting in the way there.
Yeah, you see the likes of, that kick come out from the back of, in England's shirt and Leah Burke be on the back of that, then that would have been, a catch and a try. But Hyde just needed the confidence to just step forward and get underneath it beforehand. But you look at the pace of York, Sinead Peach came back on the field and, changed completely, doesn't it?
So St Helens with the ball, and we are at that stage of the game, Danica Karim. I'm not quite sure if you want a bit of a think about it, where we are looking for the Betfred player of the match.
Oh, there's options, isn't there? We've had a very a real battle up the middle and up the edges, and I think that's where the game's going. But there's a few numbers out there that could potentially get it, isn't there?
We'll give you a second or two to consider that then, as St Helens come with that possession. Harris with the ball. Oh, great charge forward from Shona Hoyle. This is the last of the set. Liv Gale. The ball goes downfield, taken by Tara Stanley. So let's put that pressure on you now, Danica Karim. Who is your Betfred player of the match?
Well, I think she's an outstanding player. She goes without unknown all the time, and the change. She went off the field for a little bit. The comeback and the pace of York. My player of the match today has got to go to the number 9, Sinead Peach. She just composes herself and she leads by example, and she makes sure the team is making these breaks like this.
And it's Tamsin Renouf who's in the clear for York. Oh, and she outstrides that effort by Partington, and Tamsin Renouf with her second try of the game. She's had a great afternoon in the centre for the Valkyrie, and that just puts the icing on the cake for the home side this afternoon.
I was going to say, this girl has come into her own in the second half, and she would have been up there as well for player of the match for me. But Tamsin Renouf in that first half was maybe a little bit quiet, but in the second half is really showing her skill and her pace. And again, yet another one that's going to make it difficult in a couple of weeks' time. And she's really found a flow in this game, and last week we saw it as well. And somebody to really watch in York, and somebody that Sinead really can rely on and trust. And what a fantastic break! Not particularly the speediest of people on the team, and maybe there should be some people that should be catching up with her. But the determination, once she's got the gap in front of her, to go forward like that, absolutely fantastic.
And again, just that gap down the St Helens left coming a little easier than maybe what it was at the start of the game. That little show and go, really, just enough to get around the outside of Alex Bridge. And Tamsin Renouf with that smile on her face. A second try of the game, second try of the half for the Valkyrie as well. And she'll be looking for a big season, getting back into that England performance unit. Tamsin Renouf, after time out of it, she was determined to reclaim a place, and I think the next step obviously will be to try and reclaim a shirt in the full England side.
Yeah, we've seen a real flip in the second half. I think the first half, there was a lot of players that didn't really stand out, but this second half has been completely different. Tara just having to reset the tee there from the wind. It's not been that windy for them either.
No, it hasn't.
It's been a very steady day for them.
It's been lovely conditions, actually. Not too cold, not too hot like one afternoon we had together down here for a game last year. It was ridiculously hot last year, but no, perfect conditions this afternoon as Tara Stanley just judges it. Maybe a little bit of a breeze just starting to come across the ground. Timing's perfect there, isn't it? The way that fell off the tee just as she was about to strike it. So Tara Stanley will just reset.
Renouf's going to go and hold the ball for a bit. Just before that, like I said, the likes of Lacey Owen in the first half was really showing a skill. In this second half, we've seen the likes of Emily Rudge come and step up. Tamsin stepped up, and really taken this ball forward. And I think it's been a game of two halves, really, hasn't it? In the sense that these players have been a little bit fallen into the flow.
Yeah. And it certainly has been all York in the second half, so really nilled Saints in this second half, as after all that, not successful.
And I think the real difference in York was Sinead Peach, leading the team in that first half, but in the second half, Georgia Hetherington doing a great job. But Sinead really increased the pace when she came back on.
And that ball going to Tamsin Renew for what ended up being the last move of the game, never mind the last points of the game. A 20-point win for York Valkyrie, 26 points to 6. It's been a superb start for Lindsay Anfield's side with the win against Leeds last week, the win against St Helens this week. Two of their main rivals this season put to bed in the opening weeks of the season. But from St Helens' point of view, players missing. They lost Jodie Cunningham in the first half. There will be better to come from Matty Smith. 26 points to 6. And the York players congratulating each other for what's been a great second half performance from Lindsay Anfield's side. The 3 tries, 2 from Tamsin Renew, 1 in the middle of those from Rhiannon Marshall. But credit, Danica, I think, to both defences.
Yeah, I mean, that first half, it was kind of a bit of a battle. York did go into the sheds at half-time on the the better end of the scoreline, but that second half, they really came into their own. And I think you've seen the likes of, we see her there, Rhiannon Marshall, great to have her back out. Holly Dodd in the halves, quiet first half again. The second half, she really started moving this ball around. Tamsin Renew, again, outstanding in that second half. And Stanley is typically Stanley. She held the ball around, she held the gap. A couple of uncharacteristic errors, but again, was a real pivotal part in making them kicks and stepping across. But I think, there's confidence in the sense they've beaten Leeds now, they've beaten St Helens now, that they're the 2 front runners very early in the season to get too confident. And it's going to be a real task now for Lindsay Anfield just to compose the team and be like, start of the season, we've got to make sure that we keep this going and forward, and it'll all be about the points they score now. And it was Saints who wasn't the got away first. Rebecca Rotherham, who unfortunately had to go off early, and losing her was difficult. So Leah Burke try, comes from fantastic combination between that fullback and the winger. And Leah Burke, like we've spoken about, an outstanding athlete, and any gap there. But sad for Saints to have to lose Rebecca Rotherham so early on in that first half as well. Some real crucial. And then just that, answering back through, as we've spoken about, Stanley, missed pass there over the top, and a steady ball could have gone for the edges, but she decided to hit down back up against the middle and hit the players rather than the gaps, which is, you normally say spaces, not faces, don't you? But fantastic for York to get back over, and you can see how much it means to them. Every try for them is a win. And Holly Dodd, doing what Holly Dodd does best, stepping back inside, creating that gap, and hopefully we're going to see her run wild in the NRLW for Canberra Raiders in their first season up there. So great to be a contracted player. And again, Holly Dodd, just that double shuffle to, as we've spoken about, Tamsin Renew there, just making that step and that breakthrough. It looks like Tamsin just needs a little bit of a space, and she's away as well, but that combination with Holly Dodd in the second half, when they just kind of fell into their own, and real breakthrough, nobody putting any pressure on with the chase too hard, and it was easy enough for her. And then she's back with an absolute bang, isn't she? Rhiannon Marshall can handle that ball, show and go, breaks the line, straight through the 2 defences there. Not even a whisper of a problem for her, and to put the ball down. Really happy that she's got herself on the score sheet, and hopefully this builds her confidence going into the rest of the season, and a great start for them both. And here she is again, Tamsin Renew, a centre with some serious pace and some serious skill, determination there, breaks the line and just floats herself over. Unfortunately, Partington, after stepping at full-back, just doesn't quite have the pace to catch her. And again, a little bit of a show and go, isn't it? That's what's been getting the Saints off on the defensive mark, not numbering off and not watching that. And that maybe comes from a little bit of an experience, but credit to Tamsin completely there for getting the ball over and getting York the deserved win this afternoon.
So just that 1 try for St Helens from Leah Burke, getting the game started off with that, and then after that the points all going the way of the Valkyrie for that 26 points to 6 final scoreline. Let's get some reaction then from this match. Let's go down pitch side and join Paul Kidd, who's with the player of the match.
Sinead, first of all, many congratulations on that performance from a personal point of view. Exactly how were you feeling there following that game?
Oh, buzzing for the girls, it was a great effort. I think we started off
Well, apologies there. We just seem to have lost. We just seem to have lost what's going on pitch side there, so apologies for that. We'll try and sort that out and bring you some reaction from the player of the match, Sinead Peach, picked by you, Danica Bream, and she really does move this York side around the pitch. I think for me, she's a player that is constantly working hard. You saw her in that first half, just taking the ball to the line and really trying to push it. She sets the platform for these York girls to play off. And in the second half, Georgia Hetherington, credit where credit's due to Georgia, she came on. The pace of that play, the ball slowed down a little bit. She was playing off the floor and kind of not stepping out a little bit. What Sinead does really well is she'll pick the ball up and she'll take a couple of steps herself before she passes it. That means she's drawing in that first and second marker a little bit, which gives the gap a little bit for the other players to run through. And I think she's just an outstanding player. I think the way she's led today, and she's constantly in there. Her work rate is fantastic. She got taken off for not particularly long, really. 5 or 10 minutes. George Hetherington stepped up for her, but came back on and came flying. And she's a girl that works incredibly hard and is a super driven girl, and I hope that we get to see her back in an England jersey in particular in a couple of weeks, but if not, definitely going forward to the next World Cup. She's somebody that's definitely one to watch. Like we've said, there's an abundance of number 9s for England now, and makes it really difficult for Stu Barrow to have to pick, and I think that's what's going forward. You've seen now York play Leeds and now play Saints, and they're the 3 top runners. They're the 3 teams we're going to have a lot of girls coming up for this international coming up, and maybe a mid-season international in April is a little bit early, some might say, particularly after the World Cup, but Stu Barrow's got in there, he's stripped the team kind of clean. The leadership team's now come in. We've seen Emily Rudge has stepped down from captain. Jodie stepped up. Maybe not a huge surprise, but again, he's gone in and made a statement to say this is a brand new look England squad, and therefore we're going to see, hopefully, a few new names, or at least a few girls step up that should have been in contention for that World Cup. So really exciting to see, and that's what they want to do. The 3 top runners kind of playing each other. I look forward to now when Saints play Leeds Rhinos, and what will come of there and how they all hold up. Injury plays a massive part. Losing Jodie Cunningham, I hope it's nothing too serious, but it's not looking great at the minute, so we can only assume that losing Jodie is going to be a huge blow for St Helens. And early in the season, you've worked really hard. You think you're in the fittest position you can be, but nothing gets you ready for match day fitness.
I think certainly Matty Smith, hopefully we'll hear from him before we leave you this afternoon. Matty Smith will have plenty to work on, I think, from that performance. Some of the younger girls coming through from the under-19s, a real step up for them as well. Well, I think we can probably try and get some reaction then from this match. Let's go back down to pitch side and rejoin Paul Kidd.
Well, Sinead, thank you for being so patient with us there. We were just deluding there, obviously, to the 2 opening fixtures that you've had, away at Leeds Rhinos, or home to St Helens. It couldn't have got much tougher in the opening 2 rounds.
Yeah, I think having them for the first 2 games of the season and coming away with wins, it puts us in really good stead. It's a great effort from the girls in both matches, so yeah, we're proud to get them wins.
And from a personal point of view, Sinead, I just want to talk a little bit about the disappointment of you missing out on the World Cup last year. Obviously, in 2 weeks' time, you're in the squad. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, it were a tough pill to swallow. It's a home World Cup. It's every girl's dream to be playing for your country in a World Cup at home, isn't it? So, I've just did that off, left that behind me, and back in with the England girls. And hopefully I can get selected in 2 weeks' time and play that fixture against France.
You've certainly not done your chances any harm today and last week, Sinead. I'm guessing you're looking forward to going into camp.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a great atmosphere with the girls. So looking forward to going in, and hopefully I get selected first. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Sinead, all the very best for England against France in a couple of weeks, and a massive well done. First of all, Matty, obviously you got your first game there under your belt. You must be perhaps a little bit disappointed at the end of it.
Yeah, disappointed. Not to come out on the right end of the result. I can't fault the effort and attitude by the girls. Obviously losing Jodie early and moving our squad around a little bit, and then Rebecca had to go off our fullback. But the girls give everything they've got. When you go down to 2 subs, it's difficult, and it probably caught up with them later on in that game. But loads to work on. We need to improve. We need to improve for next week.
Obviously, Matty, you mentioned there you sort of in effect lost 2 players 20 minutes in. There's a massive ask for you there to sort of play against a side like York with limited interchanges.
Yeah, York are obviously a physical side. They carry the ball really strong and they defend really hard. So, it is difficult, but there's no excuses. The best team won today, and I thought our girls showed plenty of energy, plenty of attitude. Good attitude, and we just need to obviously fix up a couple of lapses in concentration there. I think when York go through, and then obviously with the ball, we probably put a few forward passes on, and the skill wasn't where we need it to be. So we need to fix that very quick, and we'll look to do that in training.
Obviously, you mentioned Jodie Cunningham finally there, Matty. She came off with what looked like a very nasty knee injury. Obviously, with the internationals in 2 weeks' time. It could potentially be a massive blow for yourselves and for England. How is Jodie looking initially?
Yeah, she's upsetting there, but we have to obviously scan her up and assess that and see what comes out of that. But yeah, gutting for Jodie. Jodie's a type of player that doesn't come off if she's not hurt, and she's a warrior. She's tough, and it's not nice to see that. But first thoughts are just making sure Jodie's all right, and we'll get her looked at. And in terms of obviously maybe losing her for a bit, that's not what we want as a team, but we need to find a way of replacing that if that happens. But we wish her all the best. We want her looked after, and we'll do that this week.
Matty, thanks for joining us after the game so quickly. We'll let you get back to Jodie and the team, and we look forward to seeing you later on in the season. As we bring in Lindsay Anfield now. Lindsay, first of all, many congratulations on that victory. You must be absolutely delighted.
Yeah, I am. 2 wins out of 2 is, what more could we ask for from the girls? I just thought it was a really gritty performance today. We stuck to what we needed to do. It wasn't pretty, but they ground out the results, so I'm really chuffed, thanks.
Obviously, when the fixtures came out, Lindsay, you sort of eyebrows are raised. You've got Leeds Rhinos away, you've got St Helens at home. It couldn't have got much tougher, but obviously you've come through that with 2 huge victories. You must be really pleased on that scale.
Absolutely, and pre-season's long and cold and dark, but when you've got 2 really big fixtures, 2 high-profile fixtures right at the beginning, it does drive you a bit more. And like I've said, to come away with 2 out of 2 is it's outstanding. It's brilliant.
You mentioned before the game that perhaps you were looking to smarten up around the ruck, certainly in attack. That performance there by Sinead Peach and Georgie Hetherington as well, who covered for Sinead when she came on. You must be really pleased with the way they marshalled your forwards around that field. Yeah,
we are, and you never sort of look at them and think what's going on. They're very controlled. They lead well, and the forwards have got into a bit of a rhythm now. They understand how each other plays, and I think they'll just go from strength to strength as the season goes on.
And finally, I just want to mention about the crowd today. Obviously, the York men's team are playing away at Halifax today. What an absolute fantastic crowd. It certainly sends out a message that women's rugby league is alive and kicking in York.
Yeah, it does. I mean, do you know what the crowd was?
I certainly don't know what the figure was, but it certainly looked a pretty big crowd to me, Lindsay.
It was. I know there was over 600 sold pre-sales, and then obviously walk-ins and the hospitality tickets we gave away. But just to have this amount of people coming to watch women's sport in general is amazing, and for us to be a small part of it in York is what we're trying to do. And especially all the young kids that I saw today is fantastic. So brilliant. Just bring on the next one now.
Lindsay, we can't wait for the next one. Thanks for joining us, and all the very best for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much for broadcasting it. Thank you.
Lindsay Anfield, the head coach of York Valkyrie. So what a start we've had to this new Women's Super League season, Danica Prim. Some of the best sides already coming up against each other, and already some interesting points being raised, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic start for the season last week, and then this match here today. What an absolute spectacle it's been. And for York Valkyrie, a newly formed name to come out and put a real show. They've always tend to be the bridesmaid and never quite the bride. Is 2023 their season? Who knows, but they're certainly starting off in the right foot, aren't they?
Certainly are. A long way to go, though, still in this season. A break next week as we start the Challenge Cup. York Valkyrie travelling away to Barrow. St Helens also on the road as well, away at London. So plenty of rugby league to come ahead here this season. So it's finished this afternoon at the LNER Community Stadium with a win for York. York Valkyrie beating St Helens by 26 points to 6. See you next time on The Sportsman.